Chapter 791. There was a heart-rending voice that cut through the sky. Tonight was destined to be a sleepless night in Nevernight City. Shijin Yi closed his eyes, which were filled with blood. All the power in his body gathered together, like it was about to burst out. At this time, the Roan clan's people surrounded his fort, led by Roan Lung Mo and Situme. He walked out of the fort step by step, and there was a killing intent in the air that made people unconsciously tremble. Shijin Yi, although there is still some time before the king's battle, I can't wait any longer. Roan Lung Mo looked at Situ Mei beside him and said, "The grudge of you stealing my fiancée must be settled today." "What do you mean by stealing?" Situ Mei looked at him and said, "Mayor has always been Big Brother Lung Mo's." She naturally knew that a wise man submits to circumstances. Since Roan Lung Mo dared to block the Roan clan, he must be confident in defeating Shijin Yi. Then it was inevitable that they would turn against each other. These words aren't false. His voice was ice-cold, and there was a chill in his deep eyes. He narrowed his eyes and said, "I will only have one wife." Z. Following this sentence, the sound of gossip rolled over. "Does the king have a wife?" "Who is it?" "I don't know. Wang Tian has always been alone since he came back. I've never heard of him having a wife. But I'm still jealous of the person he calls his wife. It's a pity." A trace of sadness flashed in Roan Lung Mo's eyes as he said with pursed lips, "She won't appear." In his eyes, Luo Qingshun was a good person. Although she poisoned him, when they were about to become enemies, she didn't let him die from the poison. If the first person he met in this life wasn't Situme, perhaps many things would have been different. It was a pity that there were no ifs in this world. Then, Shijin Yi narrowed his eyes, and his lips curled into an evil, charming smile as he looked at the people in front of him. "You can all be buried with her." "Si. In an instant, countless blood crows appeared around the fortress. One turned into two turned into three. "Shijin Yi, you." Roan Lung Mo naturally knew what kind of power he used. This was a forbidden technique of the vampire clan in the Nightless City. For thousands of years, very few people have been able to awaken it. Creation. "Don't you guys like using the soul-locking mirror?" Shijin Yi said with a cold snort. "Then I'll let you have a taste of the pain in your bones." After regaining half of his heart, he carried all of her memories. Every bit of it made one's heart ache. The thing he regretted the most in his life was going through the heavenly tribulation. If it wasn't for this tribulation, he wouldn't have become the king of the Nightless City. He could have lived a peaceful life with her as an ordinary person. "Everyone, don't panic. He's just strengthening his aura." The skull copperbell in Roan Lung Mo's right hand rang. His current ability won't be able to hold this formation for long. As long as everyone can hold on, Nightless City will be ours. "Roan Lung Mo, you're really indulging in fantasy." As his voice fell, countless blood crows attacked in their direction. With his cold aura and cold, killing intent, everyone had to die. No one had the right to live. Chapter 792. Why? Why did Shijin Yi suddenly become this strong? Could it be? Where's Luo Qingshun? Roan Lung Mo struggled to put up the barrier as he looked at the panicked Situme on the side. In the secret room, Situme bit her lip and said, "She was almost tortured to death by me. It's impossible for her to come out." Roan Lung Mo looked at Shijin Yi's effortless expression and said in a trembling voice, "No, she should already be dead." He wasn't a fool. The current Shijin Yi was completely different from the Shijin Yi who blocked the hidden light. In the end, he was a step too late. "You, what do you mean?" Situme stared right at Roan Lung Mo with wide eyes. "You wouldn't be lying to me. Are you trying to kill me?" "Maya, hey." Situme curled her lips and said, "Don't call me. My Sita clan has nothing to do with you." As soon as her voice fell, she shouted in Shijin Yi's direction, "Big Brother Jin Yi, quickly save me. I was tricked by this thief." "Is it important?" His cold voice rang out slowly. Behind him, large flocks of blood crows kept appearing. The further back they went, the bigger the blood crows became, and the stronger they became. "Big Brother Jin Yi." Situme knit her brows, not understanding what he meant. In her eyes, since Jin was talking to her, it meant that she still had a chance. She didn't want to die. She was this beautiful. Why did she have to die with someone like Ronglong Mo? He wasn't worthy. Nothing is important. He sneered and raised his eyebrows. His eyes were cold as he roared. Everyone has to die. Vampires, blood hunters, humans. She's already dead. What right do you have to live? The memories of the past, the pain of the one he loved the most, it eroded his heart bit by bit. Even he didn't plan on living. You lunatic. Ronglong Mo could hear the meaning in his words. His face was a bit pale from using too much power, but he gritted his teeth. But she gritted her teeth and squeezed out the words one by one. How can you face us vampires like this? Why didn't you think of this when you killed her? I didn't kill her. Yes, you didn't kill her. Jin narrowed his bloodshot eyes as he looked at Ronglong Mo. You just made her wish she was dead. See. More and more blood crows attacked Ronglong Mo's protective barrier. Ronglong vomited a large mouthful of blood and said, Big brother, I can't hold on anymore. Hold on. As soon as his voice fell, Ronglong turned to Situ Mei and said, I will set up a barrier around you. Once you leave the barrier, run out of Nevernight City. Don't look back. Do you hear me? In times of danger, he still hoped to protect her. This is what you should do, Ronglong Mo. Situ Mei's eyes were filled with rage as she glared at him. If it wasn't for you, I would still be the one in Jin's heart. How could I need to run away? You're a piece of trash. You've always been a piece of trash. Chapter 793. In an instant, the sky was filled with purple and red, as bright as day. This was Nevernight City's first time being as bright as day, as it was completely red. Ghost doll, the ghost doll has descended. Ronglong Mo muttered to himself as a faint sparkle appeared in his eyes. Perhaps the ghost doll can stop Jin from destroying Nevernight City. Ghost doll? Situ Mei, who had just taken 2 steps, turned back and looked at Ronglong Mo with a look of joy. The ghost doll you're talking about, is it the puppet doll recorded in the half-step glass mirror? Ronglong Mo saw that she wasn't leaving and knit his brows. You're still not leaving? Why should I leave? Situ Mei said with a cold snort. You're right. Nevernight City will soon change masters. But that master isn't you. It's Sir Ghost Doll. The current Jin was a madman, and the current Ronglong Mo couldn't beat Jin, not to mention Sir Ghost Doll. She also seemed to have to change her goal. It was too boring to only be the woman in the hearts of 2 men. Situ Mei, you really aren't leaving, right? Ronglong Mo took a deep breath as a faint trace of blood came from the corner of his mouth. Jin's powerful ability had already made him use all his strength to resist it. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, overestimating himself. Not to mention Jin's abilities being above his. A person who wanted to die had immeasurable strength. I'm not leaving. I think you're just jealous of me. Jealous of our Situ family. Situ Mei rolled her eyes at Ronglong Mo. Sir Ghost Doll has descended. You're not allowed to talk about our relationship later. No, there's no relationship between us. It had to be admitted. Situ Mei's voice was like a needle, piercing his heart with each word. In the end, he had misjudged him. To be more precise, he was blind. Xiao. The golden light disappeared from Situ Mei, and he said with a cold laugh, Do as you wish. As soon as his voice fell, he took back his barrier. Jumping out, he headed to the top of the fort. You really are despicable. A large group of blood crows attacked the Situ clan. Although the Rong clan's people weren't Jin's match, they wouldn't lose their lives against the blood crows. Ronglong Mo glanced at the sky, his gaze becoming extremely deep. The bright moonlight reflected a looming figure. She was dressed in a red robe, like a puppet doll, but her face could not be seen clearly. Save me, Ronglong Mo. Hurry and save me. Big brother Genie, you may. Situ Mei screamed with all her might, her face ferocious. Genie gave a cold snort. His eyes narrowed as he raised his right hand to gather light blue energy. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at Situ Mei, burial goods. Die. As soon as his voice fell, a faint blue light shot towards Situme. Wherever the light went, the blood crows retreated to the sides. Ah! Whoosh! With a pitiful cry, a dark red light fell from the sky and repelled Shi Jinye's technique. Situme shouted in joy, "Lord Ghostall, Lord Ghostall." Shi Jinyi narrowed his eyes and looked up. Looking at the bright red sky, his eyes trembled. There was a familiar feeling that filled his heart. This figure was actually similar to the doll he made when he was in his teens. Chapter 794. Situme was filled with joy at this moment. The king that hadn't appeared yet, the future king of Nevernight City, had actually saved her. She could only blame her charm. After all, she was the #1 beauty of Nevernight City. Every man would fall in love with her. And she was going to marry the strongest one. That dark red figure came closer and closer, making people's breaths unconsciously stop. And she actually came to Shi Jinye's side without any hesitation and handed the puppet doll in her hand to him. Long time no see. She was wearing a large red robe, and every pattern on her clothes was the same as the doll she gave him. Big eyes, red lips, long eyelashes, skin as white as blood, and eyes as clear as water. Ghost! Why is the ghost doll a girl? Situme's expression became a bit disappointed. She pursed her lips and said, "Moreover, she really looks good. But why would girls save her? Could it be that even girls couldn't control her charm?" Thinking of this, Situme couldn't help revealing a bright smile. "Master Ghost Doll," she said with a smile as her eyes filled with charm. "Pa, pa." She waved her right hand, and 2 heavy slaps fell onto Situme's face. She couldn't stop herself from falling to the ground as her eyes filled with confusion. I didn't let him kill you because I didn't want to die that easily." Her eyes turned cold as her lips curled into a faint cold smile. "What? You still don't know who I am?" Her eyes were ice cold, and her skin was even whiter under the moonlight. Shi Jinyi on the side felt his heart skip a beat as he looked at her with a look of joy. I'm the doll that you personally created." She paused before looking at Situme on the ground. There was a sparkle in her eyes as she said, "I am also the Luo Qing Chun that you personally sent to hell." Pa, pa. As soon as her voice fell, 2 heavy slaps fell onto Situme's face. "No, impossible." Situme tightly covered her face as she said with a pale face, "You're just a normal vampire. Impossible." "Who told you I'm a vampire?" She sneered and said, "Didn't your fiancé tell you that I was a blood hunter in the mortal world?" Rong Lungma. She suddenly raised her head and looked at Rong Lungma under the moonlight. She gritted her teeth and said, "You actually brought a blood hunter into Nightless City." Situme's powerful words made Rong Lung Mo's heart skip a beat. Some feelings had unknowingly changed. The so-called dislike. Those feelings that had always been buried deep in his heart. Those feelings that he was desperately unwilling to admit. At this moment, it suddenly collapsed. "So what if I am?" Rong Lung Mo's eyes narrowed as he pursed his lips and said, "Do I, Rong Lung Mo, need to report to you what I do? Are you two fighting amongst yourselves?" Luo Qinchin chuckled. She suddenly raised her hand and gave him 2 heavy slaps. At this moment, Situme's face was already swollen. She looked at Rong Lung Mo with a pitiful expression and said, "Save me. You said you would protect me. You told me this when I was young." Chapter 795. As soon as her voice fell, she slowly raised the blood-red sword in her hand and attacked Situme. The sword chi was very strong, and Shi Jinyi took back all the blood crows in order to cooperate with her. The sharp blood-red sword slashed Situme's face one after another, accompanied by screams. She didn't even blink as her eyes were filled with hatred towards Situme. When she slashed 99 times, there were only white bones left on Situme's face. It wasn't just her face, it was also the face she was covering. When the pitiful cries sounded in her ears, she felt a kind of pleasure. Perhaps she really was the ghost doll that killed without blinking in the rumors. Luo Qingchun. Situme tightly covered her face as she said through gritted teeth, Situme, even if I become a ghost, I won't let you off. Come. She was as domineering as she was on Ghost Street, and the power she carried this time was tens of millions of times stronger than before. The sword in her hand gathered together, and she revealed a cold smile. She looked at the ugly Situme covered in blood and said goodbye. In the blink of an eye, Rong Lung Mo charged in front of her. The sword stabbed into his heart, but he held her tightly. However, he held her firmly. It was probably only at this moment that the man in snow-white clothes admitted a secret that he had hidden in his heart for a long time. He gave a self-deprecating laugh and said 3 words by her ear. Sorry. He should have said these 3 words to her a long time ago. When he gave the soul-locking mirror to Situme, he was destined to owe her a lifetime. But Rong Lung Mo wasn't willing to admit it back then. He had fallen in love with a blood hunter. What a mockery. What a disbelief. And this person was Shi Jinye's wife in the mortal world. But everything had to come to an end, and this ending was the best. Shi Jinyi, standing behind Luo Qingshun, had cold eyes. There was a strong power around his hand as he pushed Rong Lung Mo in Situ Mei's direction. The long sword followed him, stabbing into Situ Mei's heart the moment it landed. In the next second, the two of them turned into dust and disappeared into the endless night sky. In an instant, Luo Qingshun only felt her body floating. She was pulled by a certain someone and steadily fell into a gentle embrace. Before she could react, an urgent and hot kiss landed on her lips. Rong Lung Mo's death filled the Rong clan with rage, and they all charged forward to take Shi Jinye's life. But he didn't seem to care and continued to kiss the person in his arms. He raised his right hand and created a dark red barrier. Shi Jinye's barrier was different from Rong Lung Mo's. His barrier was aggressive, and it was very aggressive. Thank you. Thank you. After a long time, he gently let go of her. There were tears at the corners of his eyes. He wanted to say something, but he was a little flustered. He could only keep saying, I'm sorry. It's me. I didn't protect you well. If he hadn't lost his memory, if he had kept her in the fortress, she wouldn't have to suffer so much pain. Even if she didn't awaken and become a ghost baby, he would protect her even if he had to risk his life. But at that time, he actually let her go. Chapter 796. Shi Jinyi at that time only thought about how to let his wife live. When he saw Luo Qingshun dying from the heavenly thunder, he didn't even think about giving her half his heart. He knew that he wouldn't live long with only half a heart, but he still did it. Seeing his panicked appearance, she couldn't help feeling a bit of pain. It was like that day under the heavenly thunder when he asked her, Can we go home? Fool. Luo Qingshun touched his face and said with pursed lips, You never owed me anything. You were the one who created me. You were the one who gave me life. I was just a doll. No. He shook his head and tightly hugged her. You are my wife. Whether it is in the mortal world or in Nevernight City. If you can only be my wife in the mortal world, I will destroy Nevernight City. Listening to his confident tone and looking at his confident demeanor, Su Qingsang sighed. Luo Qingshun couldn't help smiling. He still had the potential to be a black-bellied highness, just like when they first met in the mortal world. In the Battle of Nevernight City, naturally the Shi clan, led by Shi Jinyi, had won. After all, the one who got the ghost child would get Nevernight City. Not to mention that the ghost child and Nevernight City's king were familiar with each other. Shi Jinyi said that he wanted to give her another wedding, but she rejected him. In her eyes, there was no wedding that could compare to the one he gave her in the mortal world. But their days in Nevernight City weren't boring. Their daily routine was, What do you want to eat today? There's nothing in Nevernight City, and I have to go all the way to Shantao City to buy groceries. This is too much. Vampires only drink blood. They don't eat anything else. Qingshun, I'm going to look for food. Do you want me to bring you something? Bring a cute rabbit. All right. In the end, Shi Jinyi brought back a cute dead rabbit. Husband, what is your dream? With you by my side, what about you? Luo Qingshun thought about it before saying, Of course it's with you, eating all the delicacies in the world with me. On the importance of being with the same species. They didn't live long in this world, at least not as long as they imagined. A tall tree attracts the wind. Shi Jinyi always emphasized vegetarianism, and the vampires who had been oppressed all year round attacked him. The Shi clan had no descendants, and the older generation gradually couldn't compare to before. Although he had Ghost Baby by his side, the long years of war still made them feel mentally and physically exhausted. At this time, Shi Jinyi took 2 pills from the half-step glass mirror. He gave one to Luo Qingshen and took one for himself to take one's his own. This pill was to turn into immortals, to become a normal person's to turn to become immortal. Shi Jinyi, to take a SSSS turn. Although it was a last resort, the vampires in Nightless City would eventually rebel. She is SBT so hungry. After eating the pill, Shi Jinyi took Luo Qingshen's hand and ran to a restaurant. He looked at her beside him and said, "Wife, your dream is about to come true." Luo Qingshen was surprised before she revealed a faint smile. The smell in the air was familiar and fresh. She really liked this place more. He softly poked her nose and said in a pampering voice, "I'll eat all the delicacies in the world with you." If it was said that he didn't come to the mortal world to fear the vampires, rather he wanted to fulfill her dream, then it wasn't excessive. Chapter 797. I originally yearned for her, but then I saw you, and now I'm laughing foolishly because of my yearning. Ronglong Mo Nevernight City. Rong Clan's Ronglong Mo. I wasn't the center of attention when I was born. I only became the center of attention when I competed with the Shi clan Shilong. After a few hundred rounds, it was so easy for me. Although I lost in the end, I was only 28 that year. I knew that I would become the brightest star in Nevernight City, and no one could stop me. Nevernight City's #1 beauty. The Situ clan's Situ may showed goodwill to me. I was young and frivolous back then. Although I was cold on the outside, I had a strong sense of vanity. I knew that Situ, May, and I were the same kind of people, until Shi Jinyi shone brightly. He let me know that in this world, there were more talented vampires than me. He was the center of attention the day he was born because he was the king's son. The sky was filled with purple and red, sometimes bright and sometimes dark. But I thought that this was just a gimmick from the Shi clan. But when he became stronger and stronger, becoming a high-level vampire faster than me, I knew that he would be the only stumbling block on my path to success. And I couldn't beat him in the end, because he welcomed his heavenly tribulation when he was 100 years old. Everyone in Nevernight City knew what the heavenly tribulation meant. 99% of the vampires in Nevernight City didn't need to experience heavenly tribulation because it was a sign of being strong. Once he passed his tribulation, Nevernight City would change masters. No matter who the king of Nevernight City was, they couldn't beat him. What surprised me was that 100 years old, Nevernight City didn't have a single vampire who had experienced heavenly tribulation at 100 years old. I wasn't willing. I was very unwilling. I definitely couldn't let this happen so easily, so I used Master Wu Yu, the most powerful blood hunter in the world, and I've heard that Shi Jinyi was his disciple. Everything went very smoothly. Wu Yu calculated where the heavenly lightning would fall and set up an array, waiting for Shi Jinyi to take the bait. But I never thought that the plan couldn't keep up with the changes. His so-called wife appeared, the one standing on the eaves that day with the strange treasure in her hand. That was the second time I saw Luo Qingshen, but this time her appearance was engraved in my mind. As I listened to their conversation, I found it a little funny, but I also felt a little touched, because I saw with my own eyes how she used all her strength to block the heavenly tribulation for him, blocking the fire talisman, blocking everything. At this moment, I suddenly wanted to know what was in her head. Was it love? What a joke. In the days that followed, I became so strange. I kept heading to Shantao City. I told myself that I was looking for Shi Jinyi's old lover to steal Sitamei back. But later on, I found it harder and harder to convince myself. Those things that I didn't want to admit seemed to have taken root and sprouted in my heart. Until I met her again. She had changed a lot. Her appearance and voice had been ruined. But her goal didn't change. She was still looking for Shi Jinyi, just like I imagined. I would unconsciously remind her of many things. I would unconsciously accept her unreasonable request to give her the blood bracelet. On the surface, it seemed like I was being threatened by the poison, but in reality, I was extremely excited. Although I kept restraining myself, I knew that many things had unknowingly changed. Chapter 798. If the thing I regretted the most in my life was giving the soul-locking mirror to Situ Mei, I considered everything. I knew how Situ Mei would treat Luo Qingshun, but I still gave it to her. Because I want to know if I cared, if I didn't care, if I didn't care. About her. However, my actions on the Blood Moon Street had completely betrayed me. I cared about her, and I cared a lot. There weren't many scenes that appeared in my mind, but as long as I thought about it, I would be happy and happy. Even happy. I had to become the king of Nevernight City. I had to replace Shi Jinyi. This way, I would be able to rightfully possess her. At the very least, I could try my best to walk to her side. After all, I even treated someone like Situ Mei with all my strength. I didn't have time. I didn't even think to gather all the Roan clan's people and tell them that Shi Jinyi was very weak right now. He would only become weaker, and I would become stronger. But when I saw him summon the Blood Crows, I knew that he was no longer the previous Shi Jinyi. At that moment, I felt my heart skip a beat, and my breathing became a bit stagnant. I knew what his recovery meant. It meant that Luo Qingshun was already dead, but I still had a bit of hope as I asked Situ Mei. When I asked her, I could feel my heart trembling. She must have used all kinds of torture methods to kill her. Although I didn't know how she left the secret room, I knew that my life was about to end. The Blood Crows attacked the barrier I set up, but my heart was calm. I told Situ Mei to leave, but her words were so hurtful. I suddenly regretted it. Why did I fall in love with this kind of person? She looked good on the outside, but she was ugly on the inside, making people feel disgusted. As a person, you should at least not let down the people who are good to you. Situ Mei would never let me down, and I let down Luo Qingshun. The sky lit up and the ghost doll descended. I felt excited at that moment. I didn't know where this excitement came from, but I was indeed excited. I looked at the figure that slowly descended from the sky. It was an extremely unfamiliar face, but the clarity in his eyes was extremely similar to that person's. She stood by Shi Jinyi's side, and she ruthlessly hurt Situ Mei. She said she was Luo Qingshun. No one in this world would know how much my heart throbbed at that moment. I watched her torture Situ Mei, but I didn't feel any heartache. I know that she loves Shi Jinyi, and I know that she can't belong to me anymore. Then is it possible that I can use all my strength to hug her once? Even if it was just once, it would be fine. He thought so in his heart, and in fact, he did so. This was probably the most decisive and crazy thing I had ever done. I stood in front of her sword and steadily let her sword stab into my heart. I smiled as I continued to walk forward. It was very painful, but my heart was filled with excitement. Because in the next second, I firmly hugged her. I know this is the first time, and also the last time. I don't regret it. I even think it's worth it. A life for a hug, and those 3 words. Actually, I didn't want to say sorry, but I couldn't say the other 3 words. Because I was someone who had hurt her, I wasn't qualified to say those 3 words. But I knew that someone would replace me and say those 3 words to her. Chapter 799. Human and ghost can't be together. I'm not willing to face this tribulation. Shi Jin, you don't know when I fell in love with her. Perhaps it was that golden light that confused my eyes and messed up my life. I should be more domineering and say that I like her. I like her regardless of anything. Those 7 months in the mortal world were the most exciting 7 months of my life. It was the first time I had someone I liked, the first time I had a goal to strive for, the first time I wanted to spend my life with her. I felt that meeting her was my fortune, but I never thought that meeting me would become her misfortune. A person who had lost all their memories and their life was blank, but they had to pretend that they were the same person as before and live a peaceful life. That feeling was like you had a giant secret and your heart was in a panic, but there was no one to talk to. But when she met me for the first time, she decisively exposed me. That feeling really couldn't be described. After asking around, I learned that she had an engagement and it had just been broken. Since the heavens were willing to give me the chance to be the hero to save the beauty, why wouldn't I do it? I appeared at the drunken immortal house and stood by her side. I suddenly felt that my vanity was greatly satisfied at that moment. It was like even without my memories, I could still live well. After she became my wife, I didn't know why I began to look forward to the sunrise and sunset every day. There were many things to do every day. Listening to the opera, drinking a pot of tea at the Drunken Immortal house, and ordering a few dishes that she liked. Occasionally, we would go shopping in the downtown area and buy some jewelry for her that she liked. But I never thought that this kind of life would only last for 7 months. That day, lightning flashed and thunder roared. I stood in the array and could vaguely guess that my identity wasn't normal. But I really wanted to go back at that moment. I wanted to go back to the manor we lived in. I wanted to hug her and have a good sleep. I asked her if we could go home. She told me to resist the heavenly tribulation. What a strange name, but the power that gathered in my body told me that this was my tribulation. But I wasn't willing to. I personally saw her fall in front of me, covered in wounds. I personally dug out half of my heart and gave it to her. Let me tell you, she can't live, and there's no need for me to live. But when I opened my eyes again, I couldn't remember anything. What a joke. When she appeared in front of me, I actually didn't recognize her. How sad he must be. How cruel I must be. After that, her hoarse voice, her clear eyes, her tears, her heart that had been forcefully dug out, and her body that had turned into ashes. At that moment, I felt as if my world had frozen. He didn't know what to say or do. The pain in my heart overshadowed everything else. It was so painful that I looked at the other half of my heart and hesitated whether I should put into my own heart. A great battle was imminent, but my mind was not filled with victory, but destruction. I want to destroy this world. I want everyone in this world to die with her. He was happy that she was back. It was as if a phoenix had been reborn. At that moment, I knew that she wasn't just anyone. Instead, it was a doll that I created with my own hands in the city that never sleeps. She is my doll. In the mortal world, she is my wife. Suddenly, he began to believe in fate. Suddenly, he began to miss the mortal world, missing the years that flowed like water. Humans are destined to be mere mortals, while vampires will live forever. If you're willing to be with me, I'll cut off my blood and turn into white bones with you. Chapter 800. Welcome back, host. Luo Qingshun was stunned. Thinking about it, she seemed to have slept and then came back. I slept to death like this. Luo Qingshun rolled her eyes. She felt that her death was very wrong, but her death was very reasonable. Yes, host, you should have died of old age. Then he must be very sad. She pursed her lips as a faint guang appeared in her eyes. She felt that she didn't properly say goodbye this time. Relax, host. The male lead slept to death an hour before you. The following is a summary of the mission. Host, please properly look over it. Name, Luo Qingshun Plane of Existence. Vampire Highness Puppet Doll. Mission completion rate. 100%. There is currently one item in the EXP dimensional storage. Exquisite ring. Exchange points. 7,000. 16,000 has been deducted from the last world, so there are 900 left. Mission success will increase by 6,000. The system will give 100. Base points. 40-inch. The exquisite ring doesn't need to be put into space. It can't be lost anyway. Luo Qingshun thought about it before asking, will it be useful in this world? No need. It's a modern world. Then you don't need to put it away. It looks good on you. Luo Qingshun raised her hand as her lips curled into a faint smile. The host's 16th mission panel is below. Appearance, stamina, intelligence, figure. After that, the image in the bronze mirror changed. Mission grade, B. Experience gained, 500. Exchange points gained, 5,000. Female lead, Luo Qingshun male lead. He-Chen supporting female lead. By EE supporting male lead. Yizhua Chuan mission content. Return to the year before the female lead died and obtain the love of the male lead He-Chun. Side mission. Obtain the Ruliska International Film Empress Award. AI, the entertainment industry. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and couldn't help thinking of Mr. Sundermu. She didn't know who she would meet this time. At least it would be someone she was familiar with because they had the same mark. The door to the truth seemed to be slowly opening. She was also trying her best to search for her original memories. Currently importing memories. Please receive them. Host. This was a story of the original owner's own death. The male and female leads were an enviable couple. Although they were married for the benefit of their family, they still treated each other with respect. She never thought that after being married for less than 3 months, the previous host would be conquered by Yizhua Chuan's sweet words. Yizhua Chuan, who schemed to enter He-Chen's company and stole company secrets to other small companies. Little did they know that the truth was that Yizhua Chuan was also kept in the dark. He didn't love the original owner, who was a stupid and sweet young miss. He preferred the kind of person who could fight with him, such as Bai Yi, who was proud of her ability and talent. Even if their company was only a small business, and Bai Yi was only a third-tier star. But it still couldn't stop Yizhua Chuan from madly falling in love with her. It was a pity that Bai Yi had such high standards. Yizhua Chuan was just a springboard for her success. Even if she became a first-rate star and entered He-Chen's star art. Even if He-Chen was divorced and single, she still didn't have a chance to have any contact with the male lead. Because He-Chen was a man with a high IQ and also a very obsessed man. After the previous host and He-Chen divorced, she stole star art secrets while throwing herself into Yizhua Chuan's arms. Chapter 801. The previous host was disheartened, and adding the fact that Bai Yi was filled with resentment. She went to find the previous host. She told her everything. The previous host wanted to find He-Chen after learning the truth, but she never thought that there would be an accident on the way to Star Art. The weather in December was a bit warm, but Luo Qingchun, who had just finished reading the previous host's story, felt a chill in her heart. Because she was standing at the door of the certification office with a green book in her hand. There were 3 large words written on it. Divorce certificate. She had no choice but to curse her system. She simply couldn't take it. System, you think my task is too simple, right? Can't you send me here an hour earlier? This is the will of the heavens. Host, don't be too stubborn. MMP. Luo Qingchun looked around. She still had He-Chen's house key in her hand. Thinking of the story between the previous host and He-Chen, Luo Qingchun didn't understand a bit. He-Chen was an intelligent person. Even if it was a family marriage, he had a reason to reject the previous host when he knew that she wasn't interested in him. But he accepted it. What was even worse was that they had been married for 3 months, treating each other with respect for 3 months, but he didn't complain at all. He still came home every day to make dinner and leave the lights on. What was even worse was that the previous host stole his company's secrets, but he didn't fire her or divorce her. Rather, he used his identity as the president to suppress everything. The last person to ask for a divorce was the previous host. He only asked, "I'm not willing to divorce, but if you've really decided to do this, at least give me a reason." The previous host's answer was, "I love Yizhua Chuan. I love him regardless of anything." The host's voice. Is the previous host crazy? Thinking of He-Chen's expression at that time, she felt that there was a bit of sadness in his eyes. Why? She didn't understand. This kind of man with an explosive IQ, why would he be so good to a silly girl? Love at first sight? That wasn't possible. The male lead was calm and black-bellied, doing everything in an orderly manner. He had a plan B for everything. This kind of man wouldn't impulsively fall in love with anyone. What was the reason? She didn't understand. There must be something. The previous host must have done something that left an indelible impression on He-Chen. Therefore, he chose to marry Luo Qingchen out of so many rich and powerful families. After all, if the original owner's family didn't have the He family's help at the critical moment, they would have been on the verge of bankruptcy. I can't remember. Just when was it? Luo Qingchen held the key and the green book in her hand and felt embarrassed. For the first time, she felt that she had played the role of a heartless person. It was really uncomfortable. Just as she was thinking about going back to the company or going home, Yizhua Chuan called her. "Qingchen, where are you? I miss you. How about we have a meal together?" Yizhua Chuan's voice was a bit masculine, but it sounded a bit feminine after listening to it for a while. She didn't like this kind of voice, but perhaps it was because Yizhua Chuan was a scum, so his voice didn't sound good no matter how she looked at it. Okay, the coffee shop downstairs. Luo Qingchen's eyebrows moved slightly, and a touch of Li Guang flashed through her eyes. Chapter 802. It was a fancy coffee shop. Yi Chuan ordered a cake and coffee for her, looking very attentive. What is it? Do you need me for something? She took a sip of coffee, and her voice was a bit cold. What is it? Yi Chuan clearly couldn't adapt to her coldness, so he said in a gentle voice, The data I asked you for last time. Have you prepared it? Luo Qingchun slightly knit her brows and tapped her bag as she said, Not yet. I'll give it to you in the afternoon. Actually, the data was already prepared, but she decided to change it and give it to the sweetheart of the previous host. In the afternoon, Yi Chuan seemed a bit dissatisfied as he said, Then quickly go and do it. Why are you still drinking tea here? What does this treasure drinking tea have to do with you? Of course, Luo Qingchun didn't say this out loud. She knew that she had to endure it since it hurt the most to fall from the highest point. Got it. As soon as her voice fell, she drank the coffee and headed for the door. But she didn't know that this scene would be accidentally bumped into by the male lead who came back. He knit his brows, and his deep eyes became a bit dim. In the end, she was the only person he wanted to marry in this life, but it was a pity that she loved someone else. At the same time, Luo Qingchun also rushed to the office. But she never thought that when she walked into the elevator, she would bump into He Chun. He was wearing a coffee-colored coat, and his features were clear, looking very handsome. The most special thing was those dark eyes. They had a bottomless feeling to them. Luo Qingchun felt a bit of panic in her heart at that moment. He actually used his hand to stop the elevator when it was about to close. At the same time, a slender hand blocked the closing elevator door in front of him. He Chun slightly knit his brows and said, Come in. She nodded as her heart beat like a little deer. The awkwardness that filled the room made her face unconsciously turn red. I never thought that you would come back this quickly. His hands were in the pockets of his coat, and there was a faint coldness in his eyes. No one could see the emotions in his eyes when he said this. Luo Qingchun closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I heard that the company has a hot IP script to compete for in the afternoon. This is a fat piece of meat that the entire industry wants. Is Star Art confident? This was purely to test He Chun. A man with such a high IQ should not know that Star Art's data had already been leaked. As long as Yi Chuan's Parkway had better resources, this hot IP could be snatched away. For a long time, the air was silent. When the staircase made a ding sound, He Chun slowly said, Whether I'm confident or not, you should know better than anyone. There was a hint of sadness in his words. This kind of He Chun suddenly made one's heart ache. Luo Qingchun frowned and walked out of the elevator. Just as the elevator doors were about to close, she abruptly turned around with a sweet smile on her face. Mr. He, people change. No matter what, the previous host had what she had. Whether it was good or bad, she needed to bear it now. Since the previous host was a bad person, she should be a good person now. As soon as he arrived at the office, everyone surrounded him and started gossiping with infatuated faces. Qingchun is so envious of you. You actually took the same elevator as Director He. How is it? Isn't his face handsome to the heavens? If I was in the elevator, I definitely would have asked for his phone number. After all, Cinderella and the prince always meet in the elevator. Chapter 803. Luo Qingchun finally remembered that she hadn't spoken to He Chun at the company. The people in the company all thought that He Chun was a single noble. They didn't know that he was secretly married. Moreover, he's secretly divorced. The title of director, his wife, had never appeared on her profile picture, so there was no need for anyone to know about the title of ex-wife. After all, it wasn't something to be proud of. What are you gossiping about? There's no need to work. Won't people fall from the sky? Luo Qingchun scattered them with a few words because she didn't have much time. Turning on the computer, she found a locked secret folder and began to make large-scale changes to the information she prepared for Yi Chuan. In her memory, Star Art had lost the fight for this popular IP. The supporting actress by E had become a first-class star with this movie. It really was a giant turning point. Thinking of this, she didn't blame her system. When she wrote down the budget, she changed the original $5 million to $4 million. Other than the budget, there was also the amount of broadcasts, the market, the publicity team, and etc. She had changed almost everything. Well, all in all, this was a fake set of data. Yizhuchuan, just you wait. Luo Qingshun secretly put all the information in the folder and headed to the parkway next door. Yizhuchuan couldn't take it anymore and was waiting for her at the door. He said in a very bad voice, "Why are you so slow? Don't you know that the meeting is about to start? If our parkway loses, what will you pay?" Luo Qingshun angrily said in her heart, "Pay your uncle. I want you to go bankrupt, all right?" But she had to endure. She had to play the whole game since there was a side mission this time. She would treat it as training her acting skills. "Didn't I rush to bring it all over for you?" Luo Qingshun bit her lip and said, "Don't be angry." All right. Yizhuchuan waved his hand and said, "There are too many people here. You should quickly leave. If you're fired or He-Chin doesn't want you, you won't have any value at all." When Luo Qingshun heard this, she only felt her hand in the pocket of the big red coat clench tighter and tighter. She seemed to want to throw 2 backhanded punches at him, making him unable to differentiate between north and south. "Goodbye." She rolled her eyes. She didn't want to stay a second longer. It had to be said that the original owner had good taste. Were his eyes shot by a cannon? This kind of scumbag F***CK. Forget it. She patted her chest seriously and told herself seriously. Anyway, the world is full of scumbags. As soon as they returned to the office, everyone started preparing for the most important meeting of the day. As the data collection team, the position of the host wasn't low. She was the team leader, so she could get so much data. However, she did not know that even the team leader had to go through many channels to obtain this information. She would never know. That man named He-Chun, in order to make it easier for her to steal the data, he actually protected her data. However, the original owner didn't know, but Luo Qingshun knew with a glance. The company's internal documents were all set up with an extremely high firewall. If one wanted to enter the internal documents to steal some of the more important secrets, it was very likely that they would leave behind traces. Chapter 804. Qingshun, the meeting is about to begin. Little Jasmine on the side reminded her, telling her not to be in a daze. She was in a daze because she was still thinking, where had she seen the male lead? What had she done to make him so obsessed with her? "I know," Luo Qingshun said with a soft laugh. "It's here." There were a total of 3 teams in the data collection department, and each team leader was sitting in the back listening. She was a bit nervous before the meeting, so she went to the washroom. She never thought that she would bump into He-Chan when she came out. He didn't say anything and just looked at her before walking past her. Luo Qingshun could imagine how disappointed He-Chan was right now. The reason why Parkway was able to come to Star Art together with the first party of the popular IP novel was because of the information in their hands. But it was a pity. This meeting only lasted 10 minutes, and the first 8 minutes came from Yizhuchuan's personal show. "First, I want to thank Su Tang. Let's go our separate ways for the rest of our lives. This popular IP has given Parkway a chance. Being able to compete with a large company like Star Art is already an honor for us." Time passed, and Luo Qingshun had a faint smile on her lips. The previous host didn't participate in this meeting because she didn't have the face to see He-Chan. She really missed out on the world's most selling melons and praising herself face. The client looked down at his watch, and Yizhuchuan was still talking in the meeting. He had completely turned the flaws in Star Art's data into Parkway's flawless advantages. Seeing Yizhuchuan's arrogant appearance, he didn't notice that there was a problem with the data at all. But He-Chan noticed the advantages that Yizhuchuan mentioned. Star Art was the benchmark of the industry. He-Chan was very clear in his heart that Parkway had already lost this competition, but his eyes couldn't help falling onto Luo Qingshun. It was a pair of probing eyes. There was a faint li guang in those deep eyes that people couldn't see through. In an instant, Luo Qingshun met his eyes. She pretended to be cute and pouted at him while blinking her eyes. Actually, she was trying to hide her awkwardness and nervousness. But she didn't know that her cute appearance would make He-Chan's heart tremble. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 0%. What? You mean that He-Chan's affection for the previous host was negative? Which man in this world do you think would allow his wife to betray him so many times and still have a positive number? So, he hated the original owner. It was just that his personality was too calm and steady. Even if there was hatred, it was hatred that was buried deep in his heart. Could it be said that love had given birth to hatred? Luo Qingchuan didn't know. She didn't know if he had ever loved her or not. She didn't know how high his favorability was. She didn't know what kind of betrayal he went through to end up with such a favorable impression. The original owner really didn't leave anything for her. All the love and hate started anew with this starting point. That Mr. Yi, are you done? The client was clearly a bit impatient. He looked at the clock and said, "It's about time." The client naturally didn't understand why Yi Zhuchuan said these strange words. According to the analysis of the data, his words just now really were terrible. Chapter 805. I'm done here. Yi Zhuchuan sat back down with a look of victory on his face. Luo Qingchuan looked at him and couldn't help finding it funny. He really was an idiot. Or perhaps it was the previous host's stupidity that made him trust her that much. Ding. The slide in the conference room opened, and on it was the resources, broadcast channels, and various data that Star Art had given for this popular IP. Each one was better, more, and more professional than the data Parkway gave before. I'll say a few simple words. There was a sparkle in He Chen's deep eyes as he looked at Yi Zhuchuan with an ugly expression. First, I released Star Art's data on this IP because Star Art is the top film and entertainment company in the industry. They should let the new companies learn something and not just randomly make things up. Second, I hope that no client will bring this kind of company to Star Art in the future. Since the client hasn't made a decision, Star Art hasn't made a decision either. Hiss. Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Luo Qingchuan knit her brows as she looked at He-chan with a bit of doubt, but she couldn't see any clues from his eyes. That director, the client's representative, had an ugly expression. He naturally knew who he needed to cooperate with to maximize the exposure and traffic of this popular IP. It was all that Parkway's, Yi Zhuchuan's fault. If he didn't guarantee 10,000 votes that Star Art's conditions couldn't compare to theirs, he wouldn't have done this stupid thing. If there's a chance next time, He-chan stood up and walked out of the conference room without any hesitation. He left behind the client and Yi Zhuchuan with awkward looks. In the afternoon, the company was abuzz with gossip. Did you hear? Yi Zhuchuan came to our company to ask for the data, but he was rejected, so he made a fake one. Damn, it really is a film and television company. They're simply acting all the way. Right. I saw his appearance in the conference room and thought that he had some skills. Luo Qingchuan didn't care about the rumors of the group leaders. She wasn't worried that Yi Zhuchuan would sell her out. After all, she still had value to that man. The only thing she was annoyed about was that she had made so many changes to the data just to get her hands on Su Tang. Let's go separate for the rest of our lives. This was a popular IP, but He-chan gave it up so easily when he was sure of victory. A person with a high IQ indeed had an unfathomable heart. No, I've worked so hard for 2 hours to create fake data. If I give up so easily in 10 minutes, it's really, I don't know if I should say MMP. After thinking for 3 seconds, Luo Qingchuan decided to go to the president's office. On the 18th floor of Star Art, in the high-level office, there weren't many people coming and going. Other than a few famous artists, there were also high-level executives. When the elevator reached the 18th floor, she saw He-chen's beautiful secretary Linda. Miss Luo, Mr. He asked me to look for you. An awkward expression flashed across Linda's face, but she immediately recovered a standard smile and said, "This way, please." He-chen's office was very big. After a long corridor, there was a large office. Chapter 806. Director Miss Luo is here. Very fast. He-chen had his back to her as his slender fingers tapped on the table. Then he said, "You met in the elevator?" She really did come looking for him. It was as expected. "Yes, it really is Director Linda said with an awkward smile. "Then I'll be leaving first." He replied. When the door was closed, Luo Qingchuan finally said, "Why? Shouldn't I be asking you this?" He-chen turned and stood in front of her against the light. The warm sunlight shone on his clean side profile. At this moment, he was so handsome that he couldn't be described in words. She was a bit surprised before she said with sparkling eyes, "What do you want to ask?" "You're very clear." He-Chen's lips curled into an inquisitive smile as he looked at Luo Qingchen in front of him. "What made you decide to turn against me? My Lord ex-wife?" "Coo. Luo Qingchen's face turned red, and she quickly bit her lip. "Be quiet. Relax. The sound insulation is very good." He-Chen put his hands in his pocket and his lips curled. "Not to mention, I should be at a disadvantage compared to you with this identity." He looked at the blushing face in front of him with those cute eyes that were slightly blinking, and a ripple couldn't help appearing in his heart. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 10%. How are you at a disadvantage? Luo Qingchen couldn't help thinking of the 2 hours she wasted, and she argued, "I'm the one at a disadvantage. I wasted 2 hours making fake data. All right?" Actually, his eyes sunk and his lips curled into a faint smile. "The sound insulation here isn't that good." Damn! He-Chun, facing this kind of male lead who had an invincible logic in everything he did. Luo Qingchen's expression, so angry. "I never thought that my ex-wife would swear." He-Chun narrowed his eyes and looked at her with an inquisitive gaze. "As expected, 3 months isn't enough for me to understand you." A person who was absolutely cruel to him had suddenly changed. 3 months isn't enough for me to understand you." Luo Qingchen took a deep breath and adjusted her emotions before looking at him. "I'm guessing that you're doing this to raise Star Art's position in the industry. After all, it's not a random person that can challenge authority, right?" This idea was her high IQ brain entering He-Chen's world. "Su Tang, let's go our separate ways." Although it was a popular IP, there weren't few IPs like Star Art. Without it, there were many big IPs. But it didn't have Star Art, so perhaps it wouldn't be able to shine so brightly on this broad road. He-Chen did this to let the big IP companies see that Star Art had the ability to give them the best resources. Second, he could let those small companies like Parkway know that they weren't qualified to compete with just any company or IP. Things that needed to be competed for in Parkway's eyes were worthless in Star Art's eyes. This was indeed a good method to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But Luo Qingchen never thought that He-Chen's next words would make her freeze on the spot. No, his beautiful eyes flashed with a faint light as he looked at her with a faint smile. "I did it to make you come find me." Chapter 807. Luo Qingchen was a bit surprised. Her eyes trembled and her heart skipped a beat. He did all this to find her, but why did she feel that she couldn't see through the high IQ director his thoughts at all? After a while, He-Chen looked at her with a serious expression. "The reason why I gave up on Su Tang was because Star Art had a better choice." A better choice? Currently the author of Su Tang, Yu was quite popular in the market, being a popular IP. Adding in the fact that Yu was a commercial person, she had gained quite a few fans with all kinds of exposure. Other than Yu, the youth script couldn't think of anything else. No, there was still one more. Yu. Luo Qingchen's mind quickly turned before she looked at He-Chan in shock. She didn't know that He-Chan would give a satisfied nod. Right, it's him. Zhishui? She simply didn't dare believe it. This person was a mysterious existence in the writing world. In the first half of last year, Yu's Su Tang was still at the top of the hot sales list. In the second half of the year, Zhishui's 10 years, memories run against you completely took over. How did you trick him into signing the contract? Luo Qingchen pursed her lips and said, "Zhishui, is my male god good?" Accurately speaking, it should be the previous host's male god. Male god? He-Chen had a faint sparkle in his eyes as he said, "Since it's like this, there will be an actress we're talking about later. Come and see if she's suitable." "Who?" "Bei-Chun and I." "That Bei-Chun and I who's become famous because of the Xinxia drama?" Luo Qingchen blinked in a daze as she said, "But I've heard that she's a big star. I don't think she's suitable." "Director He, are you teasing me?" He-Chen looked at his watch and said, "She should be here already." Luo Qingchen never thought that before she could feel if Bei-Chun and I was suitable for the role of the female lead, she would feel that she was a rumored big star. When she entered the meeting room, her little follower, Mealy, accidentally spilled coffee on her shoes. As a popular movie star, she instantly displayed the aura of a queen. She was wearing a fiery red dress and red and white high heels. She had applied more than 3 layers of foundation, and her thick eyebrows and big eyes were as big as glass beads. Are your hands crippled? Don't you have eyes when you walk? Bei Chunni's voice was very loud, and the decibel was also very high. She crossed her arms in front of her chest with a bitter and unkind look on her face. She was completely different from the elegant fairy in the TV series. I'm sorry. Mealy was so anxious that her tears started to fall. She hurriedly explained, "It's because the coffee you asked for is a little complicated. When I came in just now, what's the use of saying sorry? If sorry is useful, why would the police need it?" Bei Chun and I snorted and said, "Also, do you think I'm like you, casually drinking a 3-in-1 coffee? Are you all right?" Bei Chun and I naturally couldn't stand these small fries. Usually, she had 7 or 8 assistants on set. She was very pampered. People with eyes growing on top of their heads naturally looked down on office workers who worked from 9 to 5. She just liked to see others embarrassed, so that she could improve her own pretentiousness. There were too many people like this in the industry. "Miss Bei, I'll help you clean it. This is real leather." Chapter 808. Tisk tisk. Bei Chun-ni's words made the onlookers in the meeting room suck in a breath of cold air. God, so this Bei Chun-ni's appearance in the reality show was fake. Right. She likes to pretend to be a caring little girl. How could she be so fake? Be quiet. Be careful not to burn yourself. Mealy slowly squatted down in fear as a faint mist appeared in her eyes. It was like she wanted to compromise, like she could only compromise. "Mealy, have you prepared the documents I had you prepare?" Luo Qingshun slowly came in. She was making coffee at the coffee table by the door as she said, "Could it be that you want to delay your work for an unrelated person?" Team leader Qingshun. Mealy looked at her for help. After all, she was an intern who had just graduated. She had never seen this kind of world before. The previous host came back from abroad and had just turned 20 this year. Mi Li and the others wanted to call her Big Sister Qingxin, but they found that the age didn't match, so they called her team leader by name. Unrelated person? Bei Chun and I narrowed her cold eyes and said, "Who are you? Do you know who I am? If you don't know how to look at today's Weibo headlines, you won't even know why director he fired you." Who is she? She was the current popular actress Bei Chun and I. If it wasn't for the fact that she wanted to meet He Chun, with her status, she wouldn't have come personally. After all, with her current fame and popularity, other than her being the female lead of this novel, there weren't many people who could match her. Me? Luo Qingxin's face turned cold, but she had a faint smile on her lips. She held the freshly brewed coffee in her hand as she walked towards Bei Chun and I step by step. "You're the one causing trouble." As soon as her voice fell, her hand slipped and the cup of hot coffee fell at Bei Chun-ni's feet. Ah! There was a pitiful cry that sounded very comfortable in Luo Qingxin's ears. See, everyone took a cold breath. They couldn't understand what Luo Qingxin wanted to do at that moment. "What are you doing?" Bei Chun and I exclaimed and jumped up from the chair. Her eyes were filled with anger as she said, "You actually dared to burn me with coffee? Do you know what kind of relationship I have with Mr. He? You're a 9 to 5 trash. Trash from the countryside. You can only come from the countryside. Are you done?" Luo Qingxin shrugged her shoulders and said, "So what if you're from the countryside? You don't even understand the principle of not distinguishing between regions. Even if you graduated from the University of California in the United States, you're still a shrew." Yes, she's a shrew who only knows how to curse. At this moment, Bei Chun and I only felt a burning sensation on her feet, and her entire face turned ferocious. "So what if I'm a shrew? My mother is also a rich shrew. What about you guys? I'm telling you, she's definitely going to pay for this pair of shoes. Even if you kneel down and lick them clean, you still have to pay for it. This old lady has a lot of money, but I just want to see you guys at your wits' end." Bei Chun and I threw the chair down and completely disregarded her status. She didn't expect Luo Qingshan to casually shrug her shoulders and look at the shoes on her feet and say, "Take them off. Yo, now you want to kneel down and lick my shoes." Bei Chunai arrogantly raised her head and said, "I'm telling you, it's too late." Chapter 809. In the next second, Luo Qingshan pulled out a limitless black card from her bag and placed it on the table. Christian shoes. Red shoes from Louboutin, 80,000 a pair. They aren't cheap, but people like us who come from the countryside can all afford them. The original owner's family background was pretty good. She never had to worry about food and clothing since she was young and never had to worry about money. Although she didn't buy these shoes often, she still had a few pairs in the shoe cabinet at home. After all, there were times when she had to wear them to a banquet with her parents. Since she was a member of this circle, she naturally knew a lot about luxury goods. Bei Chunni's face was filled with astonishment. She never thought that Luo Qingshan would know the name of the shoes she was wearing. In her eyes, the people working here were no different from her assistants. They were all earning a salary and were all normal people. However, the limitless black card on the table made her face look even uglier. "Didn't you want money?" Luo Qingshan shrugged, and her lips curved into a faint smile. "Later, Millie will accompany you to the bank downstairs to get the 80,000 yuan. But one hand for the money, the other hand for the goods. After you get the money, remember to leave the shoes. After all, they don't belong to you anymore." Her every word was very soft, and she didn't put any emphasis on it. However, it was sonorous and forceful, as if she wanted to say what was in Bei Chunni's heart and make her unable to back down. The people on the side didn't dare say anything, but their expressions clearly showed what they wanted to say. Fine. You're amazing. You have the ability. I want to see how long you can last. I want to see Director He. I want you guys to disappear from Star Art." Bei Chun and I was so angry that she had already lost her mind. Her voice was trembling as she spoke. In addition, the other party didn't seem to care at all. She even picked up the waha on the table and leisurely drank it. She felt like her lungs were about to explode from anger. "That!" Linda walked in with a bag in her hand. She looked at Bei Chun and I and said, "There's 80,000 yuan in here. Director, he said that Miss Bei doesn't need to go downstairs to get any cash. You can leave the shoes and leave." Luo Qingshan was startled, her eyes filled with disbelief. She nodded slightly and saw the monitor in the upper right corner. A faint Li Guang flashed across her eyes. It seemed like someone liked to use a special method to stand up for her. You. Bei Chun and I simply didn't dare believe what she was hearing. He Chun actually treated her like this for the company's trash. She was an A-list celebrity. No one could treat her like this. Mr. He also said, Linda recounted with a smile, "He's protecting his wife and being unreasonable." "You good. Star Art dared to treat me like this. You will regret it." Bellini took out her phone as she spoke. She planned to take a picture of her pitiful state and ask her millions of fans for help. I'm sorry. It's my fault. I apologize." Seeing that things were getting out of hand, Millie panicked even more. After all, she was the person involved in this matter. Little girls who had just entered society were still quite naive. They didn't want others to be scapegoats, nor did they want to ruin the company's reputation. Luo Qingshan narrowed her eyes and motioned her not to speak. Chapter 810. "Oh." Luo Qingshan turned off the recording on her phone and took it out of her pocket. The corner of her mouth raised into a faint smile. "Are you sure?" Yo. Bei Chun and I looked at her with disdain. "Don't tell me you still want to post on Weibo. Do you have popularity? Do people like you have fans?" "Oh, no. You're only fit to be other people's fans. You're just like the dogs that follow behind me all day, wagging their tails and begging for pity. TSK. I really regret not recording this. Let your fans see what they are in your eyes." You recorded it. In the next second, Bei Chunni's face suddenly paled. She clearly didn't think that Luo Qingshan would play the recording trick. Although she could refuse to admit it, it would clearly affect her image. But how could this kind of trash in the workplace have such a high IQ to record it? She really didn't believe it. Luo Qingshan sucked in a mouthful of waha. Of course, you can continue to post on Weibo. So what if you recorded it? It takes 2 hands to clap. Do you think you can escape unscathed? Bei Chun-ni's voice dropped. She was a bit scared, but she was bullied so miserably. In this kind of situation, she couldn't back down. Who said I'm going to escape unscathed? Luo Qingqian's cold eyes narrowed. The corner of her mouth raised into a scary smile. I've never been afraid of losing my reputation. She was just a small employee who hadn't entered the entertainment industry yet. This kind of thing had far more influence than Bei Chun and I. The one who would become the target of public criticism would always be Bei Chun and I, not her. You. Bei Chun and I heard this, and her face turned black and red. Her heart was about to stop from anger, but she couldn't do anything. She could only swallow this anger. Goodbye, I won't send you off. Luo Qingqian's eyebrows moved slightly. She raised her eyebrows and said, Of course, you can choose to leave the shoes behind and take them away. Ah! In the next second, Bei Chun and I roared and angrily stomped out of star art in her high heels. Today's humiliation, she would definitely make them pay back 10 times over. After Bei Chun and I left, the surrounding people instantly cheered, as if they had fought a beautiful battle. Qingqian, Qingqian, Qingqian. A boy with glasses walked over and said, You're really my goddess. You were so cool just now. Don't you know this Bei Chun and I? Star Art wanted to sign a contract with her before, but she raised her price by a lot. Mystery said that such resources were a waste of money, so we didn't sign the contract with her. What's there to sign? Another girl chimed in. If our company has another artist like her to serve, the one who would leave wouldn't be Mealy, but me. Speaking of which, Qingqian is really amazing. She actually recorded it in advance. Luo Qingqian shrugged and said, This recording is really nonsense. Luo Qingqian said, right now, her mind was full of how to insult Bei Chun and I. How could she care about the recording? If there really was a recording, she would have let her post it on Weibo already. When the time came, she would have fought back. Wouldn't that be even more interesting? Zez, the little brother with glasses, said with a face of disbelief, Damn, Qingqian is a real actor. I couldn't tell that you didn't record it at all. La. She pursed her lips into a faint smile and said, Life is like a play. It all depends on acting. Ding, affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 20%. Chapter 811. But our star art seems to have been messed up by us recently. Not only did we lose Su Tang, now we even lost the female lead for 10 years. Mealy said with a bit of guilt as her eyes filled with depression. Please, let Bei Chun and I be the female lead for my Male Gods book. Luo Qingqian took a deep breath and shook her head. I can't accept it. On one hand, she was influenced by the previous host. On the other hand, the novel 10 Years would appear in her mind from time to time. It was indeed a good book worth reading. Whether it was the characters or the plot, it was a level higher than Su Tang. Then who do you think is suitable for the female lead? I think Gu Tian isn't bad. Xiao Luo isn't bad either. What about Shan Shan? I think her role in the evil supporting female lead was really good. Right. I also watched it, but I feel like she can't act out the pure feeling of a youth film. Everyone was talking at once. One of them turned to look at Luo Qingqian and asked, Team Leader Qingqian, who do you think is more suitable for the role of Feng Cheng in 10 years? Me. Luo Qingqian's eyes lit up, and she revealed a sweet smile. Instantly, everyone looked at her with strange gazes, and then they all laughed. Ha. Qingqian, you're joking, right? Of course I'm joking. Qingqian is just teasing you guys. That's the entertainment industry. We normally deal with it so much. It's scary just thinking about it. That's right. If you want to be the female lead, you have to sleep with the director, assistant director, or screenwriter. Hearing this, Luo Qingqian gave a soft laugh. Thinking of the previous host yearning for male god Joshua, she couldn't help saying, If it's the screenwriter for 10 years, I can't consider it. What? Cool. Seeing everyone's stunned expression, she quickly laughed. I'm just joking. We know. Everyone said in unison again. But I'm serious about auditioning for the female lead. Luo Qingqian's eyes lit up, and her lips revealed a faint smile. This book was definitely going to be a hit. The Best Actress award didn't depend on one's qualifications, but on one's work. Yes. After making her decision, Luo Qingchun immediately sent Heechin a text. Sleeping with the director, assistant director, and scriptwriter was unacceptable. But for her, letting her ex-husband walk through the back door for her didn't seem to be too much. After all, if he wanted to climb to the top, he had to use some methods. Her methods were already considered kind. Mr. He, I think that Bei Chunin doesn't have the temperament of Feng Cheng in 10 years. She's not suitable to be the female lead. Luo Qingchun. He had to find an entry point to enter this topic. Otherwise, it would be awkward to ask directly. Ding! Not long after, the text message ringtone rang. Yes. Heechun, good heavens, it was indeed concise and comprehensive. She thought for 5 seconds and suddenly overturned her previous thoughts. Moreover, he deeply believed that it was necessary to quickly cut to the main topic and get to the main point. Therefore, the next text she sent to Heechun was like this. Director He, if you don't have a suitable person to play Feng Cheng, what do you think of me? Luo Qingchun, ding ling. The text message ringtone rang very quickly this time. It was basically a second reply. It was a very simple word, but made her heart skip a beat. Chapter 8:12. Yes, that's right. This was how she got the chance to be the female lead in 10 years. Memories run against you. In a trance, she felt like she was in a dream. As expected, people with backing were different. They could get something that others couldn't get after working hard for several years. Thinking of this, she was a bit embarrassed. The next afternoon, when Luo Qingchun was seriously reviewing 10 years, Linda walked into their office. Miss Luo, director, he wants you to come to the audition room on the first floor at 3 in the afternoon to take a few photos and see which popular little fresh meat is suitable for the male lead. Linda was always respectful when speaking to Luo Qingchun. She never directly called her name. After all, she had been by Heechin's side for a long time. She only needed a small look. She knew that this woman had a different position in director He's heart. All right. Her eyebrows trembled slightly as a faint smile appeared on her face. Got it. Then you can keep working. After Linda walked out of the office, the entire office exploded. Some were jealous, some were envious, but most of them were gossipy. God, Qingchun, you're teasing me. You're really preparing to enter the entertainment industry. The first person to speak was the boy with glasses. Without knowing why, she felt that this male god was especially gossipy. Why not? Mealy happily looked at her and said, Our team leader Qingchun's face is good. All right? She can instantly kill many young actresses without makeup. It's not impossible for her to enter the entertainment industry. That's right, that's right. Everyone agreed with smiles. You have to take care of us if you're popular. Whether you're popular or not is one matter. Luo Qingchun had an inquisitive look in her eyes as she said, The choice of a male lead is also very important. After all, a single piece of mouse poop spoils a pot of porridge, not to mention a single mouse falling into the pot. The male lead was related to the direction of the entire drama. After all, when acting together, there was a high requirement for both sides to express their emotions. She hoped that the male lead wasn't a little fresh meat with good looks and no acting skills. That would simply be a stumbling block on her path to becoming a film queen, not a stepping stone. I like Jiang Yin Kai. Io, didn't you watch Jiang Yin Sai's last drama? She's just a vase. She's angry, and sad. You're not allowed to talk about my Prince Charming. He worked very hard. He worked almost 20 hours a day. We, the Salt, all feel sorry for him. He posted on Weibo that he's been working for more than 20 hours, and you believe him? Little girls are so gullible. Luo Qingchun was speechless for a while. She pursed her lips and said, Who else came to audition for the male lead this afternoon? Mealy turned on the computer and pulled out the information that had just been sent to the data department. After printing it out, she handed it to her and said, Team leader Qingchun here. Luo Qingchun was very satisfied with Mi Li's performance. She glanced at the names on the white paper. Most of them were popular little fresh meats, but there were also a few old cadres. There were those with good acting skills and those with good looks. According to the previous host's memories of this world, there were only two people suitable for the male lead of 10 years. One was Ji Li Sheng, a little fresh meat that had both positive and negative news. His looks and acting skills were all good, and his explosive power was not bad. Chapter 8:13. In the end, Luo Qingchen decided that after the audition, she would decide who was the most suitable male lead for 10 years, Yin Fan. At 3 in the afternoon, she was very punctual. Linda had her bring Mealy along to pretend to be an assistant. It was a bit cool. Mealy was very happy, saying that if she could really become an assistant, she would be even happier. Star Art's audition room was very big, and the female lead Feng Chen couldn't have more clothes. After all, in the novel, the female lead was a rich family's young miss. The plot definitely wasn't Mary Sue. It was very rich and deep. Luo Qingchen looked around and found that other than her auditioning for the female lead, there wasn't anyone else auditioning. Could it be that He-chan was really planning on letting her audition alone? Thinking of this, Luo Qingchen had to call her system. System, can I exchange for an acting skill? Didn't the host act in the best couple world of the proud film emperor? That's right, but it's been too long. I have to properly learn it this time and imprint it in my mind, like the piano. Ding, 500 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for an acting skill can only be used in this world. Actually, she could act as herself in the face-slapping scene. It was just a crying scene. It would be hard to cry if she didn't have this skill. Miss Luo, please come this way. Linda picked out a few clothes for her. Go and change. We'll take a photo later. All right, thank you. Luo Qingchen took the clothes and headed to the fitting room. She couldn't help thinking of He-chan on the way. If it wasn't for him, how could Linda protect her the entire time? It seemed like she still had a bit of status in this ex-husband's eyes. The previous host was very good-looking, and her stats were very high. She had been secretly loved by many ABC boys when she was studying abroad, but she didn't accept them. She didn't know which car had hit her eyes, but she actually fell in love with trash like Yizhua Chuan. But it didn't matter, since who wouldn't fall in love with a few pieces of trash in their life? When she was focused on changing clothes, there was a whisper that came from the door, and she heard it. Who is this person here for the audition? She looks so unfamiliar. She's not someone from the entertainment industry. It shouldn't be. I've never seen her before. Moreover, I saw a staff tag on her chest. It can't be that she's a staff member, right? She does look good, but my family's yin doesn't partner with a female lead who has no popularity. It's simply a waste of time. But this is 10 years, the only novel written by God Joshua. If you act it well, you can probably become an A-lister. That's true. I'm just afraid that the woman's acting skills are awkward and can't match up to Miss Feng Cheng's identity. Kacha. When Luo Qingchen heard this, she opened the door of the fitting room and narrowed her eyes to look at the crowd in front of her. She was wearing a Batagavea wool coat, lined with an elegant silk satin dress. It was as if the BV was endowed with folds like Christmas paper. The angular 3D cut added a lot of strength to the BV. The pure and dark colors accentuated her graceful figure. This dress is super beautiful, right? The two quickly changed their words and gave awkward smiles. In that instant, it was like Luo Qingchen had been reborn, becoming the center of attention. Linda snapped her fingers, and a warm light instantly shone down from the top of her head. Chapter 8:14. Luo Qingchen just gave a slight nod and didn't say anything. When the director who was auditioning for the male lead saw her, his eyes were filled with satisfaction. After all, beautiful things were worth appreciating. She didn't dare guarantee that she could play the role of Feng Cheng, but she could guarantee that she could play the role of a rich family's young miss. Director, this wouldn't be director, he's relative, right? It's a pity that she didn't enter the entertainment industry with this face. The assistant director looked at her and was very satisfied. Cool. The director cleared his throat and said, no matter how good-looking she is, she's still someone without any fame. Compared to a first-tier star like Bei Chun and I, there's a risk. Of course, that's why I don't recommend this kind of person without any fame. You can't say it like that. The director drew a cross over Jiang Yin Kai's name and said, "Aren't there many first-tier stars that have acted in bad movies for years? Aren't they still popular and have resources?" "Yes, yes, yes," the assistant director quickly said. "Then director, do you think this girl is suitable?" "It doesn't matter if I think she's suitable or not." The director rolled his eyes and said, "If director he thinks she's suitable, then she's the female lead." As soon as his voice fell, he picked up the loudspeaker and said, "Next, Ji Li Sheng." Ji Li Sheng was wearing Yin Fan's clothes from when he was young. There was a faint melancholy in his movements, but the corners of his lips were curled up with a bit of a black-bellied taste. The overall feeling he gave off was that he had a good grasp of Yin Fan's youth and old minister. "Oh, not bad." The director nodded and drew a circle around Ji Li Sheng's name before continuing, "Next in Ming." No one appeared. The director slightly knit his brows and said again, "Next in Ming." "Director, and Ming is taking a very important call and might have to wait a bit. How about you call the next one first?" And Ming's agent slowly walked over. He looked very casual and didn't place much importance on this audition. There was a reason for this, because Ming had already been chosen as the male lead for Broadway's Su Tang. Moreover, the female lead was Bai Yi. Although she wasn't famous, compared to 10 years, she was much more famous. "You were the last one." The director pushed up his glasses and didn't want to miss Ming. After all, Ming's image as a veteran in the entertainment industry was very good. Compared to Ji Li Sheng, it was not just a little bit better. Coming. And Ming casually picked up a jacket from the fitting room of the male lead, Yin Fan, and casually posed a few times. To be honest, just a few casual poses gave off a good overall feeling. "Can you button up your shirt completely so we can take a few photos?" The director glanced at the photo and said, Yin Fan's character was already very strict when he was 20 years old. He wouldn't look like this when he was dressed formally. Director, this is an audition, not a filming. I will naturally buckle it properly during filming." And Ming's expression was a little impatient. His entire image was very different for what the outside world said. And Ming was a married man with a pair of twins. His wife was an outsider and wasn't very beautiful. However, he frequently showed his affection on Weibo, and his image as a good man was deeply ingrained in the hearts of his fans. But Luo Qingchun didn't think so. After all, the original owner was half an expert before, and she didn't completely understand Ming. Chapter 8:15. Ming was a bit stunned as he watched Luo Qingchun slowly walk over. His eyes flashed with a faint light. It was like an eagle's gaze that saw its prey, revealing a sharp gaze. An extremely unfamiliar face, but it was quite good-looking. The next second, he elegantly raised his hand, and his slender fingers brushed past his buttons, neatly buttoning up his suit. His every movement carried the unique charm of an old cadre. However, Luo Qingchun expressed that she didn't like it. "It looks like Star Art is going to use a new female lead for this popular IP." And Ming's eyes flashed with a faint light as he looked at Luo Qingchun like a gentleman. "Director, since the internally decided female lead is here, how about we audition for a scene?" When he said this, he glanced at Ji Li Sheng from the corner of his eyes. His eyes were filled with a look of victory. The director awkwardly turned to look at Luo Qingchun. After all, the female lead of 10 years definitely didn't have a simple background. Luo Qingchun heard this, but casually shrugged her shoulders. "Okay." Ming picked a scene that didn't seem like a scene. The male lead, Yin Fan, was a military major. When he participated in a secret peacekeeping mission, he was killed by a powerful bomb. The female lead, Feng Cheng, saw everything from the drone and knew that he would die without a doubt. 1, 2, 3, action. Yin Fan tightly gripped the name tag on his chest. The moment he saw the bomb, his eyes were instantly filled with tears. He tightly clenched his fists and his thin lips trembled as he said, "Feng Cheng, it seems like I broke my promise." Pong! The next second, there was a violent explosion. The camera instantly turned to Luo Qingchun. She was standing in the control room several hundred kilometers away. Her left hand gently brushed the diamond ring on her right hand's ring finger as her tears uncontrollably fell drop by drop. That pair of big eyes that were filled with flowing light seemed to be able to speak. They revealed all their emotions: grief, anger, forbearance, unwillingness, and heartbreak. Very good. The director clapped his hands with satisfaction. It's really good. Just as Ming was feeling complacent and thought he was going to get the male lead, Luo Qingshan said, "Director, I want to act with Ji Lisheng." Ji Lisheng was a bit stunned. His gaze fell on Luo Qingshan with a hint of confusion in his eyes. The director seemed to have made a decision in his heart. He believed that Ji Lisheng couldn't surpass Ming and was more suitable for the role of Yin Fan. But since Luo Qingshan had spoken, the director couldn't say anything. After all, Linda was on the side, representing director He. Okay. The director nodded and said, "You all choose a scene. When you are ready, start." Ji Lisheng looked at Luo Qingshan. She winked at him as if she was saying something. "You choose. I'll do whatever you want." In the end, Ji Lisheng chose a scene where they first met in the airport. Feng Cheng had just returned home, and they were standing in front of the glass window at the same time. Yin Fan turned to look at her and recognized that she was his mother's benefactor when he was young. His eyes turned, and he looked at her. "It's raining so heavily. The plane shouldn't be able to take off tonight." She was a bit stunned as she turned to look at the youth beside her. Then she looked up at the sky and said, "The nearby hotels should be full." In this sudden storm, the hotels near the airport would definitely be in short supply. Chapter 8:16. This was a very awkward scene, but they had to show a bit of emotion. Ji Lisheng's every detail, every little movement, and every look were all done in a special way. When it was over, the director finally came back to his senses. It was like he was watching a drama and wanted to see what would happen next. And Ming and Ji Lisheng's acting skills were good, so the role of Yin Fan was a bit awkward. At this time, and Ming's agent came over and waved his phone, Parkway said that they'll be holding a press conference for you this afternoon, so they'll be promoting you. But Ming was a bit hesitant at this moment. Normally speaking, he shouldn't be hesitant. He had a certain amount of popularity, and the male lead of Su Tang was definitely a challenge. He acted as a soldier in the last movie, so he shouldn't act as a soldier this time. Since Mr. and has already decided to act in Su Tang, there definitely isn't enough time. Luo Qingshan turned to the director and said, "Director, what do you think?" But before the director could speak, and Ming's agent spoke first, "Your star art really is funny. Letting a newcomer decide who's more suited for the male lead. It's not professional at all." "Oh," Luo Qingshan said with a cold laugh. "This big sister, what did I say to make you think that Ming isn't suited for the male lead? Or do you think he's not suited?" The agent rolled her eyes. She took in Ming's hand as she walked forward. "The box office decides everything. Someone like you probably won't even have a screening." After that person left, Linda quickly came forward to comfort her. "Miss Luo, don't mind it too much. And Ming's image on the screen is good, but his reputation in the industry isn't good. Director, he already told us not to act as the male lead." The director on the side quickly said, So it was director he who said it. "Linda, you should have told me ahead of time. Look at how awkward that scene was." Director, he said that he believed in Miss Luo's eyes. Linda nodded with a sincere smile. On the other hand, Luo Qingshan's lips curled into an awkward smile. It was for nothing else. It was for He Chen's words. Believe in her eyes? In his eyes, her taste was probably not that great. In the end, Ji Lisheng was chosen as the male lead for 10 years. He seemed to be very satisfied. From time to time, he would look for Luo Qingshan to discuss problems with the script. For example, on a leisurely afternoon, Ji Lisheng invited her to a dessert shop to discuss the script. "Say, what kind of state of mind did you Shui write this 10 years? It's too awesome." Ji Lisheng took notes while not forgetting to praise the author of this novel. But then again, 10 years was about to start filming, but the male Gaja Shui in her eyes had yet to appear. Generally speaking, the author was the scriptwriter, so that the details of the novel could be more deeply acted out. "What are you thinking about?" Ji Li Sheng saw that her expression was slack and gently tapped her head with a pen. Linda should have already contacted your manager. Yes, Sister AI. Luo Qingchen nodded and said, although he is a very good agent, I don't think I need him. Chapter 817. You'll need it, Ji Li Sheng said with a faint smile. Although I don't know how you got the position of the female lead, the entertainment industry isn't as simple as you think. I never thought it was simple, she said with a shrug. But if you really want to talk about complicated, do you think it's more complicated than our lives? Drama came from life. The love stories and novels were mostly true portrayals of people in real life. It was just a change of words that made it a novel. The author of 10 Years, Zhe Shui, must have experienced an extraordinary story to be able to write such soulful characters like Feng Cheng and Yin Fan. When she went back to the hotel that night, Luo Qingchen sent a text to He Chun, who had been busy lately. Director He, can you let me see Great God Zhe Shui? Luo Qingchen. In order to deeply portray Feng Cheng's soul, it was better to see the author. After a few seconds, she received He Chen's reply. Just act according to your thoughts. He Chun. Luo Qingchen couldn't help rolling her eyes, feeling like she was being perfunctory. I just want to see my male god. Luo Qingchen. Ding ling ding ling ding ling. As soon as the message was sent, a call came in. It seemed like the chairman was different. He liked to talk and didn't like to type. Because their time was precious, they felt that typing was very slow. She understood. Hey, He-Chin said while driving. Did you eat dinner? Luo Qingchen was a bit stunned by He-Chin's stiff change of topic. She rubbed her stomach and said, I didn't eat, but I can order takeout. Didn't modern society have takeout all over the world? Who would go out to eat on such a cold day? You're staying at the Luo E Hotel, right? How do you know? I'm at the door of your hotel. Change into an evening dress. Luo Qingchen knit her brows, but she still obediently changed her clothes and went downstairs to sit in He-Chen's car. It was an absolute luxury car, the RX-7, a legend in the sport car world. Where are we going? Luo Qingchen looked at He-Chen beside her and asked, to eat. You blocked Big Sister AI's number? He-Chen looked at his watch and said, I'll send you to a cocktail party. What are you going to do? Luo Qingchen frowned. She suddenly had a very unpleasant feeling. He-Chen didn't reply to her. Luo Qingchen could see from his face that he didn't seem very happy. When they arrived at the door of the V Hotel, He-Chen opened the door and said, Get out. Big Sister AI will introduce you to some people who cooperate with the theater. You're not going? Luo Qingchen suddenly thought of something as she looked at He-Chen. Why? Miss Ex-Wife. He-Chen had a faint sparkle in his deep eyes. Do you think it's appropriate for me to go with you with my identity? He didn't know why, but when he saw her relying on him, he couldn't help but feel a little warm in his heart. However, he knew that this was merely his misconception. She wanted to act in 10 years because she wanted to take revenge on Parkway's, Yi Zhuchuan, and Bai Yi. But even like this, seeing Li Guang's sparkling eyes, he was a bit unwilling to let her get out. Ding, affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 30%. Favorability? Where did it come from? Chapter 818. Do you really want to go? She turned, and her voice sunk. It was clear that she wasn't happy. He-Chen didn't reply. His face was calm, but his knuckles turned a bit white from holding the steering wheel. I'll go. Seeing that he didn't respond, she opened the door and got out of the car in a panic. Actually, she knew that he was doing this for her. If a newcomer wanted to act in a movie, even if they had star art behind them, they needed a certain amount of hype and exposure. He didn't know what her dream was before. He just knew that she entered star art to get more information for Parkway. For Yi Zhuchuan. But when she said to him that day that she wanted to be the female lead, he suddenly felt that she was different from what he imagined. The entrance of V Hotel was crowded with people in disguise. They were wearing hats and masks. Just by looking at them, one could tell that they were reporters. Most of these people had a relationship with Star Art, so they specially came here. Quickly come in. Sister AI, not far away, saw her and quickly came forward to take her hand. She walked in while saying, Did you see the email I sent you? No. She looked at the luxury car that had already left, and she didn't know why she felt a bit disappointed. Sister AI gave her a piece of paper. After the banquet is over, come down with Ji Li Sheng. Luo Qingchun looked at the paper in her hand and slightly knit her brows. There were a few simple lines of dialogue and some gestures. It was just like the script of a movie. But seeing this kind of script in this kind of setting, she felt very uncomfortable. You want us to act as a couple? Luo Qingchun pursed her lips into a helpless smile. It's to give our movie more exposure. Yes. Sister AI turned and looked at her like an agent. Accurately speaking, it's to give you more exposure. Luo Qingchun heard this, and her lips twitched into a faint smile. He-Chin had you do this. I am a professional agent. Naturally, I have my own judgment on the task director. He gives me. Hype up a couple. Luo Qingchun suddenly thought of Yi-Chin's calm appearance when she was sitting in the car, and she couldn't help feeling her heart fill with panic. The next second, she continued. Indeed, it's a good idea. Qingchun. Ji Li Sheng called out from not far away. Sister AI on the side looked at her phone and said, I'll go confirm with the reporters one last time. You and Li Sheng have a good chat. Luo Qingchun helplessly nodded and walked over to Ji Li Sheng. She waved the paper in her hand. We haven't officially started yet, and we're already acting. Thinking of Yi-Chin's expression, he definitely knew it. Ji Li Sheng took a deep look at the paper and said, From your expression, it seems like you're not willing. To be honest, when he was to create Liest. Although he was often exposed as a nightclub goer and a dark young hunk, it was rare for him to have a CP. The reason was that he wasn't willing to create it. After all, this kind of thing was either someone wanted to use his fame, he wanted to use someone else's fame, or they wanted to use each other's fame. No matter what it was, he wouldn't accept it. Chapter 819. Truly boring. Luo Qingchun helplessly gave a shrug. A movie is actually being hyped up by a couple like this. Do you think it's interesting? It's not interesting. Ji Li Sheng patted her shoulder and said, This circle is very complicated, although you're already very lucky. The first movie is Great God Jishui's 10 years. But you're still a newcomer and your acting isn't professional, so naturally you can only rely on gossip to hype yourself up. What do you mean my acting isn't professional? Luo Qingchun's inner OS. It's fine if you doubt my acting, but you can't doubt my system. System response. I've never seen the host be this kind before. Ji Li Sheng narrowed his eyes. Thinking of her acting from the audition that day, it was unknown how many times better than those popular actresses. The reason why Ji Li Sheng, could still be popular with all this negative news was because he won one thing. He had acting skills. Whether it was the little fresh meats or actresses in the entertainment industry, most of them had the same expressionless face. They had the same expression throughout the entire scene. This was indeed an era where appearance mattered, but the audience was very smart now. If they didn't act well, naturally they would be labeled as no acting skills or little fresh meat. It seemed that appearance was no longer a necessity for people to pursue. Instead, it was something that people needed to see in order to please their eyes. Ding-ling. When Luo Qingchun wanted to say something, Big Sister AI's phone rang. She gave a few unsound before looking at Ji Li Sheng with slightly knit brows. After hanging up, he said, Are you asking if we're done rehearsing? You really do know. Luo Qingchun pursed her lips as Yi-Chin's appearance flashed in her mind. Calm was always his synonym, but when he was in the car, she could see a bit of displeasure in his eyes. Let's go. Ji Li Sheng looked at her and said, There's nothing to worry about. When the movie starts, everyone will know that we're doing this because of the movie. Then again, it's not that bad to have a scandal with me. Ji Li Sheng, right? Seeing her stifled appearance, Ji Li Sheng couldn't help feeling a bit frustrated. After all, he was the male god in many people's hearts. Wait. Luo Qingchun chuckled. Of course it's not bad, but I think my husband won't be too happy. Her mind suddenly lit up. She suddenly thought of who was the most suitable person to move out at this time. Sir? Ji Li Sheng seemed to suddenly realize something. Oh, Uncle? It seems like Uncle really dotes on his daughter. No. Luo Qingchun's eyebrows moved slightly as a faint smile appeared on her face. Hubby, you're married? He couldn't believe that the man in front of him, who looked to be in his early 20s, was already married. Yeah, damn it. So, Luo Qingshun placed the paper in Ji Li Sheng's hand and said, I'll go out myself. You. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. You mustn't let any reporters know that you're married. Otherwise, before 10 years airs, you'll be drowned by the keyboard warriors on the internet. Luo Qingshun gave a shrug and said with a faint smile, Me. I entered the entertainment industry with a goal. So let's be more direct. Direct? Chapter 820. The snow was falling, and there was a white glow. But when Luo Qingshun came out of the V Hotel, everyone looked behind her, but they didn't see the sound they wanted to see. They all pressed the shutters of their cameras a few times before standing there in a daze. This scene was different from what they said. Shouldn't it be the two scandals coming out together? Why was it only the girl? Ding-ling, his phone rang crazily. She turned it off and looked at the snowflakes falling from the sky, as her mood suddenly became a bit better. He-chun, who was in the RX-7 not far away, saw her come out of the V Hotel alone, and there was a faint glow in his eyes. It was very shallow, but also very deep. He didn't know how to describe his current mood. He just felt like he had never felt this before in his life. A faint joy and a faint expectation. Stepping on the gas, the RX-7 followed behind her bit by bit. When they came to a turn in front, he stopped at the same time as her. Luo Qingshun didn't wait for him to speak before getting into the car without another word. She rubbed her hands as she said, I'm cold and hungry. I'm even wearing a large red dress. People who don't know might think that I'm a little match girl. You. His expression wasn't as calm as before. Rather, there was a faint glow in his eyes as he looked at her and said, You ran away again? Director, can we not do this kind of thing in the future? It's a complete waste of time. What's the point? Luo Qingshun helplessly shook her head. I don't want to be like Bei-chun and I, or by always using this kind of thing to be on the hot searches. He never thought that these words would come from Luo Qingshun's mouth. He always thought that she wanted to act in this drama, just to become famous, just to be with Yi Zhuchuan. But now it seemed like it really wasn't. All right. He-chun revealed an imperceptible smile as he stepped on the gas pedal and headed towards a luxurious apartment. So hungry. Luo Qingshun looked at her phone and found that it was turned off, so she leaned over to look at He-chun's watch. He-chun was a bit surprised. When he felt her cold fingers on the back of his hand, his heart skipped a beat. He almost hit the tree in front of him. Tree. After a sharp turn, He-chun revealed a helpless smile. In the end, no matter what she did, as long as she was close to him, she could mess up his mind. He-chun, can't you see her clearly? Not only does she not love you, she can hurt you for another man's sake. Why is it that after the divorce, your heartstrings can still be so easily touched? Damn, Director He-chun's driver. Luo Qingshun patted her beating heart and said, Such a large tree. You're treating it like it doesn't exist. It was an RX-7 sports car. It could reach over 200 kilometers per hour on the highway. If they had been on the highway just now, her life would have been reported to the King of Hell. Sorry, there have been a lot of things recently. He-chun looked at her and said, Are you all right? Don't look at me. Luo Qingshun raised her hand to slap He-chun's face before saying, Look ahead when driving. He narrowed his eyes and his lips couldn't help curling into a pampering smile. Chapter 821. It was a half an hour drive and Luo Qingshun's heart was pounding as she sat. During this time, Luo Qingshun asked He-chun more than once, Did you drink? The answer she received was very serious. No. He didn't send her back to the hotel. Rather, he brought her to a noodle shop under his luxurious apartment. I remember that I really liked eating this shop's noodles before. Luo Qingshun was prepared to get out, but she found that the door was locked by He-chun. He unbuckled his seatbelt and said, Wait for me in the car. Before she could ask why, He-chun already got out of the car. Through the glass, he could see that Linda was standing not far away from him. She gave a white bag to He-chun and left. Luo Qingshun couldn't help sighing. Being a secretary really was the most difficult job in the world. She had to be there 24 hours a day, and she had to look at the boss' face every day. If the boss was a bit good-looking, it would be good for her eyes. If the boss wasn't good-looking and had a bad character, she would fall into an endless abyss. Da-da. The car door was opened. Hee-chin gave her a black mink fur coat, put it on before getting out. As soon as his voice fell, he closed the door. At this moment, she felt as if her world had quieted down. The clothes still had a price. She didn't know when he'd lend to buy it. But the moment she saw the price, her head buzzed and hurt a little. 450,000, 450,000, 450,000. Her mind was filled with this number. Were these clothes made of gold? 10 minutes later, Luo Qingxin got out of the car, wearing the heavy 450,000. Hee-chin looked over her before saying, "Not bad." "Of course it's not bad." Her lips twitched as she said, "The price determines the quality. Does director he understand?" As soon as her voice fell, she headed into the noodle shop. Although this high-class Chinese restaurant didn't have the full service of a luxurious hotel, the price of each dish wasn't low. The regular customers who could come to eat here were all people of status and status. "Director, there might not be a private room tonight." When Hee-chin came out, the manager on duty easily called out his name. Sure enough, people with status and identity were different. He turned to look at Luo Qingxun, as if he was asking a question. Luo Qingxun shrugged and chuckled. "It's the same anywhere. It's just a meal." "All right, let's sit outside first. If there's a private room available later, come and tell me." Hee-chin gave a polite nod before walking in the direction of Luo Qingxun. She picked a seat by the window, where she could see the most beautiful night view of the city. In the bustling city, the neon lights were lit. It was as if the beauty of the night had just begun, and the people of the night were just about to meet. Ding-ling. Hee-chin looked at the phone. It was from America. When the call was picked up, the other party didn't seem to hear clearly. He gestured to Luo Qingxun and went outside to pick it up. She ordered a few dishes that she liked to eat, but she didn't know what Hee-chin liked to eat. She ordered shrimp dumplings for him and a bowl of seafood noodles for him. She couldn't help criticizing the previous host. This was too bad for the male lead. Hee-chin should know the previous host's tastes, but the previous host shouldn't know what Hee-chin liked to eat. Luo Qingxun really wanted to know why Hee-chin married the previous host. Chapter 822. While she was lost in thought, the sound of an argument at the door caught her attention. She narrowed her eyes and saw Yizhua Chuan. Then the woman standing beside him, who was wrapped up like a big bear, should be Bai Yi. "I said, I won't sit outside. I'll only sit in a private room." Bai Yi's voice was very sharp, sounding like a little duck. In short, it didn't sound very comfortable, making people's hair stand on end. "Young Miss Bai, I'm really sorry. Our private rooms are already full, so you can sit outside first. When there's a private room, I'll call you." The manager on duty naturally knew who she was, a big star and a regular customer. Although her words were a bit unreasonable, she still had the attitude of service and politeness. "Isn't that private room being cleaned?" Bai Yi pointed to the second floor and said, "I want that one." As soon as her voice fell, she prepared to head upstairs. The manager on duty quickly stopped her and said, "Young Miss Bai, I'm sorry, but this private room has already been reserved." "Reserved?" Bai Yi said with a cold smile. "I'll pay 3 times the price. Let the person who reserved it sit down and use the extra money to pay for his meal." What kind of person was Bai Yi? She was a famous movie star, all right, adding in the fact that she was now officially cast in Su Tang. The male lead was the old man in Ming. If she finished acting in this movie, she would definitely become famous. For someone with her status, how could she sit in an ordinary seat? If it wasn't for the fact that she was hungry and wanted to eat this store's crystal shrimp dumplings, she wouldn't have come all the way here. The manager on duty awkwardly said, "Young Miss Bai, we have our rules here. You should know that." After that, he pointed at Luo Qingxun sitting not far away and said, "The private room above was already reserved by this young miss and another mister. There's no other way." Bai Yi looked in the direction he pointed and said in a surprised voice, "Luo Qingxun." Yizhua Chuan heard Bai Yi say these 3 words and looked over at Luo Qingxun. There was a hint of pride in his eyes as he straightened his bow tie. Then he looked at Bai Yi and said, "Yi Bao, you're right. How can someone of your status sit in an ordinary position? I'll get it back for you." Humph! Bai Yi snorted and said, "Hurry up and tell her to leave. I don't want to see her even if I'm in the private room." If it wasn't for the fact that trash Luo Ching-chun didn't help Parkway get Star Arts data, causing her pay for Su Tang to be cut in half, she wouldn't have needed to take out a loan for a 2 million sports car. Yizhua Chuan slowly walked over to Luo Ching-chun, who was sitting by the window and looking out. He raised his head and stuck out his chest as he said to her, "I want the room you booked above." Luo Ching-chun's eyes were still looking out the window. She took a sip of her coffee, completely ignoring Yizhua Chuan's existence. Yizhua Chuan was slightly stunned as his eyes filled with disbelief. In the past, as long as Luo Ching-chun saw him, she would stick to him like glue. No matter what he said, he couldn't get rid of her. What was going on today? Did this person eat the wrong medicine? "Hey, I'm talking to you. Can't you hear me? Are you deaf?" Yizhua Chuan impatiently slammed his hand on the table twice, his eyes filled with anger. Chapter 823. "This mister, do we know each other?" Luo Ching-chun narrowed her eyes. Her right hand was supporting her cheek as her left hand tapped the table a few times. She had a very leisurely appearance. Yizhua Chuan was stunned. He never thought that Luo Ching-chun would talk to him like this. Even when he was rude to her before, she didn't dare talk to him like this. In order to steal Su Tang, he had her steal the data plan. Although there was a problem with the data plan, Parkway still got Su Tang, so she was still his chess piece. Why was it suddenly different now? "You? What nonsense are you saying?" Yizhua Chuan saw that everyone was looking at him, so he quickly lowered his voice and said, "Quickly give the room to Yi. What is her status, and what is your status?" "What does her status have to do with me?" Luo Ching-chun cleared her throat and narrowed her eyes as she said, "If you want the room from me, you have to show a bit of sincerity. For the person who caused the original owner to be so miserable in a parallel world, now that they had sent themselves to her door, how could she not abuse them? You, Luo Ching-chun, I'm warning you, don't go too far." Yizhua Chuan never thought that Luo Ching-chun, who always relied on him, would say this. He gritted his teeth and said, Otherwise, what will you do?" Luo Ching-chun had a faint ridicule on her lips as she said, "You have to have something to use when threatening people, otherwise you'll just be a joke." As soon as her voice fell, she waved her hand to the manager on duty and said, "Hello, can you take me to the room?" "Yes, this way, young Miss Luo." The manager's words made Yizhua Chuan's expression change. Even Bai Yi's expression changed. "Che, what a joke." Seeing Luo Ching-chun walk past her like she didn't see her, she grabbed her black coat and said, "I'm taking that private room today." Luo Ching-chun pursed her lips, and her lips curled into a faint smile as she said, "Are you certain?" "I'm certain." Bai Yi sneered and said, "If you don't give me the room, I will let my fans know that you bullied me. Don't blame me for not warning you when you're hunted down." "Thank you for reminding me." Luo Ching-chun shrugged and said, "I won't let you go. What can you do about it?" The next second, she brazenly took out her phone and placed the recording interface in front of her eyes. At this time, the phone screen showed that the recording had been going on for 3 minutes. The recording continued, and Bai Yi knew that her words had been recorded. It was impossible to say anything now, but he couldn't let himself fall into a disadvantageous position. Since he had already said those words, he could not afford to lose face. "Just record it. I won't post it on Weibo." With a provocative look in her eyes, she deliberately exposed Luo Ching-chun's scars and said in a low voice, "I pity you for being an abandoned woman. So what? Divorce sure feels good." This sentence was indeed the only sentence Bai Yi had said tonight, touching her heartstrings. It wasn't that she was sad, but rather that she was angry. Seeing that Luo Ching-chun didn't say anything, Bai Yi laughed even more boldly. "You think that Zhua Chuan will be with you after you divorce? Io, why don't you look at your own status? Even if he wants to be my dog, he wouldn't want to be your man. Do you understand?" She lowered her voice as she said the last sentence. After all, she didn't want Yizhua Chuan to hear it. Chapter 824. In the next second, she turned off the recording and played the last 10 seconds. Then, she turned up the volume of her phone to the maximum. The entire restaurant was filled with the words that Bai Yi had said in a low voice. Even if he wants to be my dog, he's not willing to be your man, understand? Yizhu Chuan heard this, and his face became as ugly as it could be. Luo Qingshun. Bai Yi charged forward to steal her phone. Her lips curled as she easily dodged to the side. After that, she was grabbed by a pair of warm and strong hands that pulled her in his direction. But speaking of this, He Chen's call really took a long time. It was so long that she had forgotten that there was someone like him. Director Bai Yi instantly revealed a very delicate appearance. She fixed her bangs and said, I never thought that director he would also like this store. We really have a tacit understanding. Tacit understanding? Luo Qingshun couldn't help giving a cold laugh. She wanted to say something, but He Chen spoke first. My wife likes it. As soon as his voice fell, he ignored the incomparably awkward Bai Yi and took Luo Qingshun's hand to the private room upstairs. Bai Yi awkwardly stood there as she tightly clenched her fists. She said through gritted teeth, I heard that director he is divorced. Where did the wife come from? He Chen and Luo Qingshun stopped at the same time. Luo Qingshun raised a brow and was prepared to turn. He Chen tightly held Luo Qingshun's hand. He looked at Yizhu Chuan, and there was a trace of sadness in his heart. After a while, he softly said, whether we get divorced or not is our family's matter. Cuckoo. Luo Qingshun was stunned. She suddenly felt that He Chen's words weren't domineering at all. Why did she feel that there was a hidden concern in his words? What was he worried about? It can't be because of Yizhu Chuan, right? She continued. I can only say that what you've heard is just hearsay. What? Bai Yi instantly looked at Yizhu Chuan with a puzzled expression. Yizhu Chuan was also very surprised, completely stunned in place. Luo Qingshun and He Chen's divorce was indeed something that Luo Qingshun personally told him. It couldn't be fake. Could it be that they didn't divorce in the end, and she was lying to him? But what Luo Qingshun didn't know was that the person most shocked at this moment was He Chen, because Luo Qingshun had actually said these words in front of Yizhu Chuan. He looked at her expression and saw a faint smile on her lips. Every expression on his face was so real. I don't know if Miss Bai Yi doesn't understand Chinese, or if there's a problem with Chinese. Luo Qingshun shrugged and said, but no matter what, it's not an excuse for you to become shrew. This was the last sentence Luo Qingshun said to her tonight. His sonorous and powerful words carried a confidence that was rarely seen in ordinary people. This meal could be considered to be a delightful one. After the meal, Yizhu Chuan and Bai Yi sat in the Mercedes-Benz at the entrance of the restaurant, waiting for Luo Qingshun and He Chen to come out. He Chen's high-class apartment was next door. If they drove away, it meant that they were divorced and Luo Qingshun was lying. Bai Yi didn't believe it. She had done so many things and used Yizhu Chuan for so long, it was impossible for her to get this result. Chapter 825. Once upon a time, the previous host wanted to sit in Yizhu Chuan's car. She deliberately wanted to get out of He Chen's car on the highway, but He Chen didn't agree. Whenever she thought of the stupid things the previous host did, she really wanted to jump into a hole. She really was stupid to the bone. When Luo Qingshun saw Yizhu Chuan's car, she immediately took He Chen beside her and said, Do you still have the old zombie movie you bought last time? He Chen narrowed his eyes and understood what she meant in just a second. Then his eyes lit up as he said, It's still here. Then let's go home and watch it. Her lips curled, and there was a faint smile in her eyes. Then I'll drive the car to the garage, and you can get in first. I won't. She pulled his hand in a spoiled manner. I'll go to the garage with you. Sometimes the pleasure of decisively giving a slap was never as good as giving a sweet jujube another slap in the face. Therefore, when Luo Qingshun sat in He Chen's car, Bai Yi almost screamed out. Look, quickly look. She excitedly clenched her fists. They are divorced. He Chen is single. Yizhu Chuan's eyes sunk, and he bit his lip as he asked, Do you like He Chen or do you like me? In the past, Bai Yi always told him that. She wanted to get close to He Chen to get better resources since Star Art was the largest film and television company in the country. Bai Yi wanted to be famous, and she wanted to pave the way for her fame, This was a very normal thing. Since he liked her, he should work hard for her dreams. Therefore, he used a plan to seduce Luo Qingchen. That rich young miss had just come back from abroad, and although he had already heard about her engagement with Yi Chun, he still decided to step in. He never thought that this step would be so successful. A planned car accident, letting the rich young miss see him step in front of the car to save the little girl. How valiant, how dashing, how dashing. At that moment, he was like a hero, appearing in front of her in this murky world. Even though he treated her so badly later on, she still believed that he was doing it for his dreams and that he had a good heart. Then, she was willing to do those dishonorable things for him, for his dreams. Entering Star Art as an employee and stealing information from under He Chen's eyes, that was all she could do for him. However, he was not grateful. Why aren't you talking? His voice was very deep, and his mind unconsciously recalled what Luo Qingchen had done for him. All of a sudden, guilt took over a large part of his heart. He couldn't help but ask himself if it was worth it for the woman beside him whose thoughts were not on him at all. What are you talking about? Bai Yi thought for a moment, then gently blinked her eyes and pretended to act coquettishly. We are on the same side. Naturally, we will stand on your side. Today, Bai Yi was in a good mood, so it didn't matter what she said. If it was in the past, she wouldn't be in the mood to care about him. I said like. Yi Chuan suddenly looked up. There was a faint trace of blood in his eyes, as if he urgently wanted to know an answer. Chapter 826. At this moment, Bai Yi was completely stunned. She completely ignored what Yi Chuan was saying as she wildly said to herself, "No, impossible. Aren't they divorced? Yi Chuan, tell me, aren't they divorced?" Bai Yi wildly shook Yi Chuan's arm as she bit her lip. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness. The biggest financier in the entertainment industry, the He Chun that she had used all these methods on, he actually didn't divorce? He would never know how disappointed she was when she heard that he had gotten the marriage certificate, because she was Bai Yi, the best Bai Yi in entertainment industry, the Bai Yi who was most qualified to stand by He Chen's side. Enough! Yi Chuan angrily roared out, "Get out of the car for me." "What did you say?" Bai Yi looked at him with a stunned look. "What did you say? Say it again." What did Yi Chuan just say? He actually dared to talk to her like this? Did he have guts? I said, "Get out of the car for me." He gave a cold laugh as his eyes filled with ridicule. She was right. There really is a problem with your hearing and comprehension. Pa! There was a deafening slap as Bai Yi angrily cursed. Good, good, good. Yi Chuan, good job. Don't regret it. I'm not a dog that begs for mercy. Why would I regret it? Yi Chuan's tongue moved as he said, "This slap is a good thing I did out of kindness, taking pity on you. But from now on, there will be no connection between you and me at all. Since Luo Qingchen could be reborn, why couldn't he?" Yi Chuan. It was too tiring to keep chasing after a person. If possible, he suddenly wanted to turn around and hold the hand of the girl who had always followed him. He didn't know if she would be willing. Pay. Bai Yi raised a brow in disdain. Who wants to be connected to you? As soon as her voice fell, she angrily got out of the car. She thought that Yi Chuan was just acting. It was impossible for him to throw a big star like her on the street. But she never thought that Yi Chuan would drive away the moment she got out of the car. He didn't stop at all, leaving behind an incredulous Bai Yi. At the same time, in the He family mansion, Luo Qingchen smoothly put the coat in the place where she usually put it. It was still the hanger specially designed for her coat. The small heart-shaped hanger seemed out of place in this cold house. However, even after the divorce, he still couldn't bear to tear it down. Do you want something to drink? He Chen's expression was calm, but his heart was throbbing. This kind of careful probing was something that only someone like He Chan could do. Juice, Luo Qingchen said while flipping through the discs. Red wine is better for watching zombie movies. All right. He Chen took a bottle of 82 red wine from the fridge as he said, I'll go to the kitchen. You take a look first. Why? Aren't you full? She blinked and looked at Mr. He in an apron. The corners of her lips curved into a faint smile. She felt that it didn't match. He-chun, who took off his suit, was much gentler. It's not good to drink on an empty stomach at night. His voice was very calm, without any concern at all, but she knew that there was a hint of affection and reproach in his tone. Chapter 8:27. Foreign zombie movies tended to be bloody. When she sat in front of the TV while drinking red wine, she still felt her hairs stand on end. He-chun was very calm. He helped her move a table and put the dishes on it. Finally, he carefully turned the heater to 27 degrees before taking a shower. There was the sound of water coming from the bathroom. She pursed her lips and didn't know why she felt very assured. He-chun's culinary skills were very good. The previous host already knew this, but her heart had been completely blinded at that time. In her heart, Yi Chuan would always be the best. She was clearly very full, but she still ate all the food he personally cooked. She gave a yawn on the sofa and closed her eyes, unknowingly falling asleep. She knew when He-chun picked her up. When she couldn't suppress the smile on her lips, she turned her head and rubbed against his chest. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 50%. She was still sleeping in the master bedroom, and there was still her scent in the room. It was a very light perfume. She liked Chanel the most. The reason was because Yi Chuan liked it. It really was funny. But in other words, if there was still her scent in the room at this time, that meant that after she left, He-chun didn't live in the master bedroom. He lived in the guest room when the previous host was here, and he still lived in the guest room when the previous host left. Because of what? Her heart was deeply shaken at this moment. He was still hoping that she could come back. With an almost impossible hope, he waited. Thinking of this, she slightly knit her brows and suddenly opened her eyes. He-chun, sorry. She should have said these words a long time ago. She should have said them on the first day she came to this world. These were the words that the previous host owed him, the words that she owed him in her life. He-chun was stunned. He had just put her on the bed. Her hands were still wrapped around his neck, and her eyes were red. He didn't know why she had this kind of reaction, why she said sorry to him. In his world, although she did many things that hurt him, she didn't do anything wrong to him, because he was willing to do everything, even if he was hurt, hated, and even felt that he didn't love her in a moment of confusion. But he still didn't do anything to make her feel sad or embarrassed. Whether it was the escort in Star Art or the Broad Road now, he had paved a path for her so that she could walk on it safely. Go to sleep. He was slightly stunned. A faint Li Guang flashed through his eyes, but his heart was beating nonstop. Luo Qingchun shook her head stubbornly. She looked into his eyes and said, "You have to be forgiven before you can say the next sentence." She knew that in He-chun's heart, she had never liked him, never cared about him, and never treated him well at all. This way, He-chun wouldn't say what she wanted to say, but she wanted to give him a surprise. Regardless of whether she took the initiative or not, she would do it. "I've never blamed you, so how can I forgive you?" His eyebrows moved slightly, and a trace of self-mockery flashed in his eyes. Cough, cough. She seemed to have to hear a certain answer. Taking advantage of the alcohol, she said seriously, "If you forgive me, then say you forgive me. If you don't." Chapter 8:28. She wanted an answer. She wasn't making trouble for no reason, and she wasn't using the alcohol to go crazy. Because this answer was very important, because she wanted an answer to fulfill her request. He-chun looked at her slightly bloodshot eyes, seeing the mist in her eyes, and his heart suddenly couldn't take it. However, his calm and steady brain had stopped working in front of him. He didn't know what she was thinking, why she said sorry, why she wanted his forgiveness. But no matter what, he couldn't bear to reject her. "I forgive you." He took a deep breath and sat down on the sofa on the side, looking at her as he said, "So your next words are?" Even if He-chun's mind had stopped working like a stone, it wasn't like he didn't have any expectations. But Luo Qingchun was nervous at this moment. Previously, he had wanted to take advantage of the ferment to say all that he needed to say in one go. But when she could say this, she became a bit shy in He-chun's gentle voice. "Cool." She cleared her throat and said, "I feel that red looks better than green." "Yes." After a long time, he responded, his deep eyes flashing with a faint light. "Means that. You also think that red looks better." When Luo Qingchun said this, there was only one feeling. That was that she didn't know what she was saying. Her heart was split into two. One was talking about falling down, and the other was talking about being reserved. Right? Hee-chen's voice was very calm, but he knew that he couldn't sit still anymore, because he knew what Luo Qingchen was thinking, and her thoughts actually made his heart jump with joy. So, get the certificate. When she was planning on using red and green as an entry point, Hee-chen's two words made her heart jump into her throat. He really knew what she wanted to say that. It's too late. I'm going to sleep. Remember to wake me up tomorrow. We're going to finish the great task you mentioned. As soon as her voice fell, she gave a soft laugh and didn't forget to kill Hee-chun. Then he hurriedly crawled into bed and revealed a smile that he had been holding back for a long time. She wanted to make up for this regret. She wanted to make up for the regret that if she didn't take the initiative, Hee-chun wouldn't talk about remarrying her. She had caused him so much damage and pain. I won't do it again. The next morning, the moment the sun rose, Luo Qingchen got up early to wash up. The dressing table was neatly lined with the skincare products she used in the past. There were also some clothes in the wardrobe that she didn't take with her. This place didn't seem to have changed at all. It wasn't in a mess because of her departure. It didn't become someone else's room because she left. It was still hers, and it seemed that it could only be hers. At 7 o'clock in the morning, she opened the door to her room on time. After putting on her makeup, she put on a bright red coat and planned to get a red certificate. But actually she had another reason for waking up this early, which was to make breakfast for Mr. Hee-chun. After all, the original host had never done such an ordinary thing for him. She, on the other hand, wanted to try hard. But she didn't know that Hee-chun didn't give her this chance. Chapter 829. You, are this early? Luo Qingchen looked at him in disbelief before looking at the clock on the wall. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. Didn't the book say that a president's job was to eat, drink, and chase after beauties? Why was it that Hee-chun was like a newcomer working hard for the first time? Isn't there a saying that the early bird gets the worm? Hee-chun saw her coming down the stairs, and there was a faint sparkle in his eyes. She really was wearing red. Luo Qingchen knit her brows in confusion before saying with pursed lips, "Then the early bird can only get eaten by the bird." There was nothing wrong with that. The bird was an aloof president, and the worm was a working class or a poor student. It seemed like it was better for the worm to wake up later. Big sister AI had a hangover at the bar last night, but she still sent your schedule over early this morning. Hee-chun gave her the notebook. Take a look. Luo Qingchen was a bit surprised. Shouldn't they be at the bureau for today's big matter? Why were they talking about work early in the morning? Oh, Luo Qingchen replied in a disappointed voice, but she still obediently took the schedule. The opening ceremony of 10 years was at 4 in the afternoon, and there were many reporters present. This would probably be her first exposure. Hee-chun gave her a glass of milk. Drink it while you study it. She took a sip of the milk and looked at the things she needed to pay attention to. She found that 10 years and Su Tang were filmed at the same university. This, Luo Qingchen slightly knit her brows. We really do meet frequently. Hee-chun said, you don't need to worry about this, it's all planned out. But the list of actors for Su Tang surprised her. Bai Yi wasn't the female lead, but rather the second female lead. The female lead was Bei Chun and I, who was several times more popular than her. She should have been poached by Parkway. But with the relationship between Yi Chuan and Bai Yi, the female lead of Su Tang shouldn't be hurt by an outsider, unless they broke up. But thinking about it, if she was Yi Chuan and heard Bai Yi say this, it would be hard for her not to break. But this matter didn't seem to have anything to do with her. As long as Bai Yi didn't do anything, she was too lazy to care about her. After eating, Luo Qingchen organized the notes she made this morning while sitting in Hee-chun's car. Because there were many things to pay attention to during the filming, including the time to take photos, the time to put on makeup, the group photo with the actors, and so on. In order to familiarize herself with being an actress as soon as possible, she threw the most important thing to the back of her mind. When Hee-chun's car stopped in front of the bureau, she came back to her senses. Hee-chun didn't get out, as if he was waiting for her and waiting for an answer. Last night, was she talking nonsense after drinking, or did she really want to marry him? Then, please take care of us in the future. Luo Qingchen pursed her lips and smiled gently before opening the car door. The road ahead was long, but she didn't want such an outstanding person to carry a green book. She would rather have 2 red books cover this green one. The process of getting the marriage certificate was very short. The people at the bureau looked at their information and the time of their last divorce and couldn't help rolling their eyes at them.